EK, that was Elliot Friedman talking about the decisions that loom for the St. Louis Blues, including, this one's a surprise, Alex. Colton Parayko.
Ruined my day yesterday.
You know, I thought about tweeting out, if you see Ferrario, give him a hug.
I was at the gym. I had to take 15 minutes in between sets to emotionally handle this. And
the thing that you hate everybody else doing, you did.
I was the only one there, so it's okay.
Wow.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm respectful for other people, though, because there's nobody else in there.
So the reason why this one is so shocking to me, Alex, this is the guy that at every turn Doug Armstrong has pounded the table for. He pounded the table for him reportedly during the draft. He pounded the table for him as he continued to develop here in St. Louis. He pounded the table for him as the quote-unquote alpha on the blue line. I'll never forget it whenever Alex Pietrangelo left. He said, hey, we're going to be all right. We've got a number one defenseman still, and his name is Colton Parayko. He's going to be just fine. We are going to be just fine because of that guy. And so the idea that they would then trade him somewhere else, I understand it's a significant return, and we'll get into that. I understand he's getting up there in age, and we'll get into that. I understand there's back concerns with Parayko long term, and we can get into that. But this idea that Colton Parayko, of all people, could be made available by this team, this was the one piece that I always was skeptical that Doug Armstrong, while he's still in charge, that he would make that move. Maybe Steen would. Maybe they would want a fresh start on the blue line. But for Doug Armstrong to be the one that does this, man, those offer sheets, that was cold. That was calculated. This is burning a bridge that I never thought they would go down.
Yeah, that you wonder what it looks like on the other side, which I have to imagine plays into the thinking for Colton Parayko. You may have never thought it could be possible. I was adamant it wouldn't happen because, in my opinion, Doug Armstrong values having a veteran presence specifically on the defensive side. That's why they re-signed Cam Fowler. He even said as much last season, or this season when they gave him the extension. We feel like it's good to have those guys so that the other ones can marinate. Justin Faulk was widely expected to be moved before tomorrow. So that's why I looked at it and said, you're not going to have Jiricek, Mailloux, and Kessel as your right side. You're going to want to keep a Colton Parayko who can handle a lot of the load that the other guys don't need to. It's why when the trade announcement happened, I thought I was being punked. I was waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out from somewhere and say punked, because this is a move that I never thought they would do. Thomas, I can understand it because the spot that they're in, Kyrou, Faulk, Shen, Binnington, sure, you're moving in a different direction. Parayko's 32, and I know that seems old, but on the other side, we've heard Carlo Koliakovo, who told us when Alex Pietrangelo was moved that there are defensemen that age like fine wine. There are guys that could play until they're 38, 39 and still be competitive. So it's definitely telling where this team is going. They want a fresh slate. They don't want to have any ties down to where they're at. They're moving towards 23, 24-year-old players, and they're doing so on the defensive side as well. And the wildest part with Parayko is he is the epitome of St. Louis Blues hockey. Mm-hmm. Like I told you guys in the office, people love Kelly Chase in the city because of what he has done for the Blues. Colton Parayko is like the modern-day Kelly Chase in terms of what he does off the ice, in terms of being involved with charitable events, going out there to hospitals on a daily basis, gathering up the guys and making sure everyone's doing it. He is always saying yes. He is always happy to do it. And if he would have played last night and played till the end of the regular season, he would have tied Barrett Jackman for the most games played by any defenseman. He would have caught Bernie Federko if he continues to stay with the Blues.
That's what I was going to say. He's kind of the modern-day Bernie.
He is the...
Bernie's always been around.
And those guys...
And he's also like the nicest human being you'll ever meet. Yeah. And the same thing is true of Parayko.
Yes, exactly. But like those guys, and Doug Armstrong knows this because he has been around this organization since 2008. There is a DNA in terms of players that you need to have in your locker room if you're a St. Louis Blues team. Parayko is that DNA. And if you're moving on from him... It is a dangerous place to go into, I would imagine.
Somebody from the 314 said, well, hold on, guys. How is this getting out unless Parayko waves? Man, this has been a wild ride of a week for guys with no trade clauses.
Yeah, poor guys.
There were 4 guys yesterday that were traded without having their say yet.
Yeah.
T-Bone, I know this is something that you've really honed in on is the process, because I'm surprised by everything involved in this trade. Maybe I shouldn't be. I am. I know a lot of people on the text line are like, yeah, guys, this is what a rebuild looks like. He's 32. Of course he had to go. Sure. Not all rebuilds are created equally. This is a guy that I thought they would hold on to, at least for a little while, and they opted against it. So kudos to you if you knew it was coming. I very much did not. I didn't see this one happening, especially at a deadline.
Not kudos to you. You're a liar if you saw this one happening.
I think you're from the future.
Yeah.
The process of the way this has all gone down, based upon reports, is every bit as surprising as the decision to trade him itself. And the process, apparently, again, according to reports, includes the Blues more or less blindsiding Colton Parayko by this decision. What I've seen out there, Alex, is the Blues went to a bunch of guys last week, and I think JR reported this in his piece. The Blues went to a bunch of guys last week and said, hey, here's kind of what our situation is. Here's where we're heading. Want you to be aware of that. If you hear your name, this is part of why. Parayko was not back at that time. So it would have been impossible for them to do that exact conversation with him in person the way that they did with like Thomas, Kyrou, etc. There have been other opportunities to have that conversation with him. Based upon everything we've seen, it sounds as though that did not take place. And then yesterday, he hears that he's on the move and has to make a choice on whether or not he's going to waive his no-trade clause. Yeah, I would imagine it's going to take him a little bit of time to determine whether he's willing to move his life hundreds of miles away, not just for the rest of this season. If it's a rental, whatever. I'll go ahead and play up there as a mercenary for 3 months, fine. He's got 4 years left on his contract, man. Mm-hmm. The odds are in favor of him spending more or less the rest of his career in Buffalo. Is that something that he wants to do? That's what he's got to decide. Hey, big boy, you got about 24 hours to do so now. So, yeah, I'm surprised by the process that they came to this decision and by the way that it's all been reported. It's one thing to do this with Torrey Krug, who they very clearly said, like, hey, we want nothing to do with you anymore. Please go elsewhere. This is a guy who's been the consummate professional and has done everything you could possibly ask for. If all of the reporting out there is accurate, it's very surprising they treated this the way that they did with Colton Parayko, of all people.
Yeah, I'm surprised by it if that's the way that they approached it, because I get being cold-hearted, but if you have a conversation with everybody else that has the no-trade protection, you still have to go to Parayko.
And it's not like he's back in St. Louis.
Exactly. and even if you were going into the deadline thinking, hey, we're not going to trade this guy, Army knows nobody's untouchable. Like, Army's smart and would listen to this. So I would think you would still give them a heads up of, hey, we're probably not going to make this move. Just want you to know that, but we are going to listen, and we may still end up coming to you. But our plan right now is not to move you. Not to not even bring anything up and then completely blindside him, which is just totally shocking to me. Because if you're going to talk with everybody else, to me, you have to put him in that conversation. And to your point on just how quickly that occurred, I think 24 hours ago, I think Army thought he was going to be a part of whatever the next version of the Blues was going to look like, or at least be here through this retooling process. But boy, how quickly things can change, and to burn that bridge is unbelievable.
This is total speculation by me, but I really wonder if the Blues were blindsided by Colton Parayko.
Maybe.
Like, I really wonder if these conversations with Buffalo started with Robert Thomas and then got into, hey, they need a defenseman because the Blues were asking for one of their big defensemen, and Justin Faulk's name was put in there. And then the Thomas conversation broke down, and Buffalo, or the Blues said, look, if Radim Murtka is going to be available, what do we got to do to figure this out? And that's when the Colton Parayko conversation came up. And I told you guys this in the office. By no means am I diminishing what the reporters are doing, because they've got to do their job.
Sure.
I think what this did, because this is the life we live in, this got amplified because of it being put out that the trade was agreed upon before the player even found out. Because as we've talked about, and we talked about this yesterday, Doug makes the deal, then goes to the player. The problem is when the deal's done, somebody's going to find out about it, tweet about it, and then everybody is talking about it.
It's one thing, though, to do that, because that's fine. If that's the way you operate, it is what it is. You need to make the player aware ahead of time. Hey, your name may come up. And so think about places that you'd be willing to go. Think about places that you're comfortable with. And I'm not asking you to give me a list right now, But I just want you to, in your head, get yourself prepared. Get your family prepared for the possibility that you could be on the move in 48 hours.
But don't you think, I mean, you're absolutely right, but it's hard for me to imagine that if he sat down with all of these players to talk to them about the direction that the Blues were going in, and this is what JR reported on, of like he had these conversations, Doug did, about this is the direction we're headed. How he didn't have that conversation with Colton Parayko. Like, it's hard for me to imagine, and I'm not saying it's not true, that they didn't discuss with Parayko, this is the direction the Blues are heading in.
Conversations with people at this point? My understanding is that's what happened.
And that's the part that they're doing this backwards. Like,
that's
the three guys that
kind of cruel.
It is. The three guys that should
this guy that way.
The three guys that should demand the utmost respect in that locker room from the front office is Parayko, Shen, and Binnington.
Totally
Those
agree.
are the three that should be approached before anything takes place of, do you want to go or do you want to stay? And maybe this is the cerebral scenario you're in. IROC put it in on the YouTube chat, Graveyard chat, saying like, guys, this might just be Doug's way of telling the entire roster, hey, we're shaking things up. That's fine. But you got to do it in a less cruel way, because guess what? All of the players that are a part of that roster just saw how cruel you treated this scenario with a guy that everyone loves.
So we have a couple of people, and Harrison's brother Master is among them, but this is not limited to any one person. And this is the way that it happens, by the way. There's pressure right now on Colton Parayko. There's pressure in St. Louis for him to waive this no-trade clause, because now people want him gone, right? Like, now that it's been reported, they see the return. They're like, oh, man, first-round pick, former top 10 pick. You can get that for a guy that's getting older. We're going in this new direction. Maybe he doesn't fit the timeline any longer. Well, he's got to go. He's got to be done playing for the Blues. So Harrison's brother Master says he's made like $60 million. Put your bleeping big boy pants on and accept the deal. That's not his job.
No.
He has it in his contract that he gets to decide what he does. So he is putting his big boy pants on. I would argue it's actually on the other party to make sure that he's aware of what's going on, to make all of this a little bit easier. Parayko has it in his contract that I get to decide what my future holds. I get to decide where I live. And imagine if I came to you today, and you have it in your contract, Alex, whoever you are that's listening right now. Hey, your company has decided we love you, but we actually think you would be better suited for this job that we have available in Seattle. It's the exact same job, no different in what you're going to be doing. It's even a better company. They are actually more profitable. They're more successful. We think you're going to fit in better there, but you got to move, and you got 48 hours to decide. How would you feel if there had been nothing said to you previously about that, and then they tell you that? You're a public person. They leak it to the media, and now everybody around you is telling you, you've got to go, you've got to go. You probably don't feel great about that, right?
No, and it's going to be hard for me to decide. It would be hard for me if I decided to stay to handle that.
Or to go.
Yeah,
like,
or to go.
Either way is hard. Now you're in a bad situation.
I actually think it's easier to handle it if you go, because
Maybe.
you feel like there's so much. And I actually think Parayko is I think what the negative response of trying to force him out are the minimum. I think there's more people that are like, if I'm Parayko, I don't go, because of what his legacy is in St. Louis. I think it's easier if I'm Parayko to go than stay, because I'm going to a place that they want me versus a team that is being run by the president of hockey operations who just did this.
Somebody on the text line said he's making $6.5 million a year. If I was making that, my job can do whatever with me, anything. I know that. You ready for some tone?
Yeah, bring the tone, because I'm having it too.
If you're as good at your job
At 11,
as
17.
Parayko is at his job, you get to determine what your future holds.
Yeah, and
that's the honest to God truth. When you're this good, you are the top 10th of a percent on what you do. If you're a CEO of a company, if you are the #1 salesman, not just for your company, but in the region or in the country for your corporation, this is what you get, man. These are some of the perks that come along with it. So Parayko has earned this. He earned the right to say no if that's ultimately what he decides to do. And you don't have to like it, but that's reality. And the Blues are now dealing with that reality, and we'll see what he ultimately decides. Well, I have not seen any reporting yet today on any kind of update on what he's going to do. There's been some speculation out there, and Alex will get into that coming up on the other side. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. It's going to be almost exclusively Blues talk today. We're going to talk to Joey Vitale coming up at 11:30. Talk a little bit more about the Robert Thomas trickle effect from this potential deal coming up in the 12 o'clock hour, and a lot of you as well. But coming up next, we will let you hear both the Buffalo reaction to this deal, and Pat Maroon had an interesting perspective on the situation. We'll let you hear that next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. So if you missed it, big news yesterday, Colton Parayko, there's at least been an agreement on terms between the Sabres and the Blues on a potential deal to send Colton Parayko to Buffalo. Now, the big part of this is the fly in the ointment, which is that Colton Parayko has to decide if he wants to play for Buffalo. Pretty significant decision. So I wanted to listen to WGR Radio up in Buffalo yesterday, Alex, to find out, all right, how are they taking this news? What's their perspective on it? Let's go ahead and take a little bit of time to do that.
God.
Let's start out with them reacting to the news yesterday on the air, as the Fast Lane did here in St. Louis.
It looks like we have a Sabre trade.
Okay.
It's not it is the Blues, but it's just the defenseman. And it's not the defenseman I would have chosen.
What?
Colton Parayko, according to Darren Drager. Here's the tweet from Drager. Sounds like it's going to happen. Redeem Murtka, last year's first-round pick, and a first-round pick will be a part of it.
Okay.
I'm not sure I know what to say. With a $6.5 million cap hit for 4 more seasons.
I have room. Well, I mean, they
for a
have to have room.
$6.5 million third pair defenseman? I like Justin Faulk as an idea much more myself.
What?
He's older. Parayko's meaner, might fit the third pair mean guy they were looking for. St. Louis better be keeping half of that money with that price.
Okay, this entire show, they are not a hockey show. Plain and simple. Everything that they just went through in that clip tells me they know nothing about hockey.
What a ride, man.
Wow.
What a ride. First of all, disappointment that it's Parayko over Justin Faulk. That's amazing.
No, first of all, it's the defenseman, so I guess they wanted Robert Thomas instead.
Second of all, that at least I can understand. Second of all, he's the mean one. He's the third pair mean defenseman. Said by nobody ever about Colton Parayko.
Third, I wanted Justin Faulk instead. What?
And fourth, they better be retaining half of his salary.
Oh, my God.
So that's the immediate reaction to Colton Parayko. Then this morning, listen to a little bit more. Here's their reaction on, Parayko might deny this one. What are we going to do if that happens?
If a team that is 2 points out of first place in their division trying to acquire a depth defenseman from a last place team in the other conference, that dude wants to go, no.
Exactly.
That looks really bad for you, for us. For the Sabres.
I do agree with that.
But what do you care if it looks bad on you? You've missed the playoffs for 17 years. Yeah, it looks bad on you because you've been awful for 17 years. One hot streak doesn't make you this incredible team in the National Hockey League that everybody wants to come play for. You know what most people are probably saying about Buffalo right now? Oh, they're red hot. Probably going to be bad again next year.
So that's my perspective. That's what I said yesterday. I don't know why you would want to go there.
So I just it looks bad on us. What do you care if it looks bad on you? You've been awful for 17 years, and you think he's a depth defenseman. I'm done with these guys.
To be fair, for them, wouldn't he be a third pair defenseman?
Yeah, but that's a hell of a third defenseman.
Sure, but how much is he going to play?
Are you willing to give up the assets that they want to give up?
I'm just being totally serious.
Probably not much.
Like 14 minutes a night, 15 minutes a night?
You'd probably disperse a little bit more to where you're not playing your second pair 22 minutes. Like, you'd probably disperse it, whatnot, but you don't know the chemistry. He and Rasmus Dahlin, or Dahlin's a right-hand, he and Owen Power would be what Bouwmeester and Parayko were in the playoffs. I mean, you got two guys that are 6'6" with their reach playing together. Byram could get pushed down to the third pair and just be an offensive guy for them. Like,
I know, but the reason that I'm asking you this is because that's part of the calculus. For most teams, if they trade for Parayko, he'd be a top pair defenseman.
But that's fine. But if I'm if I'm in the shoes of Buffalo Sabres fans, I'm not looking at it as I just got a depth defenseman. I'm looking at it as I just got a top pair defenseman on another team that's going to play on my third pair for a playoff run.
That's fair.
I just made my team as elite as possible. Because Buffalo's got goaltending problems. They just loaded up on defense. So I'm not looking at it as, oh, my God, $6.5 million for a depth defenseman. I'm looking at it as $6.5 million for a guy that could play top pair minutes for me if somebody gets injured, but in the best case scenario is playing 16 minutes a night, which is a great 16 minutes to have.
All right, so that's the Buffalo
The dude was an Olympian. And we're going to sit here and act as if...
for Team Canada.
Shut up, man.
Yeah.
Shut you. Well,
his GM
their
was the
Olympian
GM of
got
Team Canada.
bounced by Team Canada.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, they couldn't even win gold, and he was on the third pair for their team.
What did his team get? They got no medal on the way back home to Buffalo.
I don't know who
Dahlin got 0 medal.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
I just think you're a Parayko fan right now.
I am a Parayko fan. I think this is stupid, acting as if he's a depth defenseman.
My wife was genuinely mad yesterday
about
when I came back and told her this news.
I know.
Genuinely mad.
Katie asked me, she goes, is it anybody that I know? Because, Katie's a Blues fan, but she and I go, it's probably going to be.
I have a picture up in our bedroom.
I said, it's Parayko, Binnington, and Shen. And she goes, you got to be kidding me. She goes, those guys are going to be gone? I said, yeah, and probably a lot more.
Pat Maroon gave his perspective on all of this on Daily Face-Off. Go ahead and take a listen.
Is Parayko going to waive?
I don't think he will. Why would you?
Yeah.
He's
We were
married
trying to-
he's not married. He has a girlfriend from St. Louis. Have you guys ever been to Emo's Pizza?
BK hates
he's
him.
dating the
Shout out.
Emo's girl. I mean, he's ties with St. Louis.
Yeah.
So
That's good
I just
insight
don't
right there.
feel like, I mean, that's a lot on a kid. They're in Seattle. You have to waive it. Like, he doesn't play yesterday. He's at the rink. Like, maybe let him go home first and decide and, like, you have a full another day. Like, maybe fly him home. Hey, go home, see, like,
Get some
what your
emails.
thoughts are. Well, he's just the nicest person. He's Mr. St. Louis. He's in the community. He does everything for the St. Louis Blues. Layla Anderson, that whole thing in 2019, that was him and Alex Steen. Like, that was him going to the hospital visits. That's him going into community. I mean, he's everything for the St. Louis Blues. He represents that jersey more than anyone in that locker room. So this is a shocking thing to me.
It's why I don't know anything about what's going on behind the scenes. It's why I really wonder if this was a Doug Armstrong decision. Because I have to imagine if you're Alex Steen and you're taking this team over after this season, a guy like Colton Parayko you want around your team.
But if you're Army and you don't want to do this, don't you just say no? Say, Steen, if you want to do that, if that's truly what you want,
Do it
you
next
can
year.
do that in the summer.
Maybe.
When
But
you're taking over, because right now my name's on it. I absolutely believe. And this part, we spoke in the first segment. We've got some thoughts on that, and that can be informed. This is pure speculation. I just want
Totally.
to say that up front. I don't think this was purely a Steen decision. I absolutely believe this is Army, man.
that's what I'm saying. I think this was all Doug Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying if Steen had again, speculation. If Steen had a say in this, I don't think Parayko's getting moved. I think they're telling Buffalo no.
Gotcha.
I think Steen would look at Parayko and say, I value that presence for a team that I'm taking over next year with Juracek and Mailloux on it. And I think this was Doug looking at it saying, look, I understand. Again, speculation. I understand what you're saying, but this return is incredible. Like, let's look at the other side of this. If I'm running a team, this is a 9th overall pick that I was reading some of the stuff from Wheeler and Pronman yesterday. If not for Matthew Schaefer, Murtka would have been the number 1 defenseman in that draft. Not the number 1 overall pick, but he would have been the top defenseman in that draft. You're not getting that return plus a first-round pick for Colton Parayko any other year than right now. And maybe not even right now. Buffalo's just insanely desperate. So if I'm Doug, I'm looking at it saying, man, this is a hell of a deal to set you up for future success. But it's why I really wonder if this was Doug looking at it saying, nope, we're doing this. I'm giving you this team moving forward.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll get Joey Vitale's perspective on this next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Blues took down the Seattle Kraken 3-2. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the San Jose Sharks. Well, pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Carber and Joey Vitale. And our Blues analyst, Joey Vitale, joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
It's been a busy few days around the Blues. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to talk it all over with our friend, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and FanDuel Sports Midwest. He's Joey Vitale joining us here on the show. Joe, appreciate you doing so out on the West Coast. How you doing today?
Joey! Joey Vitale woke up early.
What's up, boys? Bring it on. Bring the heat. I got all the answers.
Oh, okay, baby. All right, cool. Is Parayko getting traded?
No.
Okay. Really?
No,
Alex had an immediate reaction and then a separate reaction.
I don't claim to have all the answers. I don't claim to be an insider.
Actually, I'll disagree with that. I think you did exactly that.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah, no, this is all my hunch. This is all being around the team. I don't know officially one way or another for Colton just yet. You know, guys, it's just a hunch again, and this is just using the sixth sense, spidey senses, if you will, of being around Colton, being around this team, understanding all the situation with the term left on his deal, how much he loves St. Louis. I feel like it's a no. I don't think he is going to waive his no trade for the Buffalo Sabres right now. Again, nothing official. Have not talked to Colton, but you know. You think about Colton, you see that there's 4 more years left on his deal after this year. That's a lot of term left for a young man who, quite frankly, there's a lot of things to consider here. But the biggest one, Colton loves St. Louis, right? I mean, at the end of this year, he was inching closer to passing Barrett Jackman up for, I believe, second all-time in games, just shy of Bernie Federko. I mean, this is how long this kid has been here, and he loves St. Louis. And I think there's something to really appreciate about a player that if he should say no, I think if you're Alexander Steen, you actually love that because you want players to be here who want to be here. And I just feel like Colton is that guy that just wants to stay here, and I think he wants to see this thing through. So, again, that's just my perspective. That's just my feel on it. I've not talked to Colton, been around this group for quite some time, and that's just what I feel is going to happen here moving forward.
Joe, what do you think about the process that's played out here then? Because it has been a little bit, I'll call it messy, with this all getting leaked to the media and the pressure now going firmly on to Colton Parayko to decide what his future is going to hold. As a former player, you've seen stuff like this maybe happen before. What's that like?
You know, it's not easy, but it's also not hard, BK. I understand the question, and it's a legit question. And I think that it depends. It depends on the player. It depends on the personality. Because like anything in life, you can go 2 different ways about anything. You know, you can become, of course, the victor, or you can become a villain. And I've seen some players that get into this situation, and they just let it consume them. They find themselves overthinking things. You know, and I can see Colton being that way, for example, here. You know, why would they want to move me? They must not see me as part of their future. You know, and then all of a sudden you really start to get the engine going on it. You know, on the flip side, you could look at it simply as a business decision where not only it could be beneficial to the Blues, it actually could be beneficial to the player. You know, and I think at the end of the day, the players that recognize kind of what's in their control, controlling that, those are the players that really thrive in situations like this. It's very hard to not take it personally. But I think the mentally, emotionally strong ones do not take it personally, and they recognize that they still have their career that they're in control of, right? You may be moved to different teams, but it's still within your grasp. a player like, let's say, Justin Faulk. Now if Colton does say no to this, to me, he's that next moving block. For him, is it still Buffalo? Or is it going back to his old team in Carolina, who's been very quiet up to this point? For him, it is about that. It's about just moving on to that next team and then recognizing, okay, I have a job to do. This is my career. This is my family I'm thinking about. I'm going to go out there and play some doggone good hockey. So it is hard. It's hard being a part of something that you feel like they don't want you. But I would urge all fans and people listening out there that the players don't necessarily look at it that way. They understand it's a business, and they move on very, very quickly.
So let's go down the path, Joe, that they don't trade Colton Parayko. From your gut, spidey sense feel, he is still a part of this team. I know we don't know anything about this prospect that could have come back and returned, this Murtka, who was a 9th overall pick. Do you feel like Colton Parayko staying on this team is the best decision for their answers moving forward, or their direction that they're trying to figure out?
I don't think Colton Parayko has been the issue, if I'm saying that the right way. I don't know if Colton was at the top of everyone's radar of this guy needs to get moved. I mean, heck, Alex, to me it was, and it still is, it's the Justin Faulks and the Oscar Sundqvist. I mean, those are those top tier guys. You kind of think, okay, that there's going to be some movement here, right? And that second layer is, Braden Shen and then maybe even like Jordan Binnington. Those guys are kind of like on that drifter. Yeah, I could see this happening. I could see this. Not ideal. I don't like it, but I can see it. And then to me, that third layer is, do you move a big move like Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou? That's a big move. Now those are unlikely. To me, I think Colton was below that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't really see Colton as being in the top 3 tiers of what we expected to come. And I think that Colton was really taken off guard by this. I think the entire team was taken off guard by this. Of all the moves that were going to be made, I don't think that a lot of people foresaw this one or foresee this one being the first one of many. So that, to answer your question in an indirect way, yes, I think he's a huge part of this team moving forward. I don't know if looking at this year's struggles in the last few years, the ups and downs, I don't think you can point to Colton Parayko and say this is our biggest issue or this is one of the issues. It's a heck of a hockey player. I mean, and Alex, I'll indirectly answer your question this way. When players come to St. Louis, with Nick Bukestad, I talked to him earlier, talking to Robbie Fabry when he came back. Whoever comes to St. Louis, Bergam, for example, hey, who's some guy that you've been playing against on this Blues team that you are so glad he's on your side now? Jack Finley, he said it as well. Colton Parayko. It's just 9 out of 10 times it's always Colton Parayko because he's big, he's huge, takes up a lot of room. He's always tops of the league in blocking shots. He's just a quiet little pest that just is always in the way, and he does such a good job shutting down the league's best. So it's a heck of a hockey player for making just over $6 million. All that being said, no, if he ends up not doing this Buffalo deal, which is completely in his right, and he has every right to make that decision, he is going to be a big piece of this team moving forward, a big piece.
Alex, you got one more?
Yeah, I got one more. Okay. Any other? You said
Joey, I want you to know, I was ready to let you go. I know you got a hard out.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, Joe, get off the phone.
2 minutes.
No.
I got 2 minutes.
Okay,
I got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, Joe. You have all the answers. Have you heard of anybody else getting moved?
No, I haven't heard anything yet. A lot of speculation. I think the Colton one was the first domino that they really need to see if it's going to go or not. If it does not go, again, which I don't think it will, I think then you move on. Right, to me, then you kind of move on to Justin Faulk. He's that next right-handed defenseman. I think there's going to be a lot of talk swirling around that. I still think there's a lot of teams that are suitors for Jordan Binnington. As much as I would hate to see that go because he's just one of my favorite Blues, you're looking at teams like the Detroit Red Wings. Can John Gibson really get the job done in Detroit? I've never been a John Gibson fan, and I don't know if Steve Yzerman is either. I've never liked him in Anaheim. And I know Detroit and St. Louis has made lots of deals in the past, so it could be there. I don't know if we see a lot of these big names like Thomas and Kyrou moved anytime soon. I don't know if it gets done. It seems that if you're going to do it, it's probably more of a draft deal in the summertime. But certainly Faulk and Sundqvist and you look at Jordan Binnington, those names are out there, right? And there's a lot of teams with needs for right-hand defenseman and Faulk, for a goaltender in Jordan Binnington. Teams like Carolina, Detroit, even Vegas, teams that need to get over the hump and they need a goalie to do it. And Jordan certainly has been that guy. Again, I hate saying all these things because, Alex, especially BK, we got good relationships with these guys. I consider them so close and good friends. And it's really hard. It is the business, unfortunately. But like I said, I think the big thing to shake down now is let's see what Colton says. I think yes or no, let's move on. Let's figure out that next step. And I do think there will be some more dominoes to fall as soon as we figure out what Big 55 decides to do.
Joey, you're the best. 11:45. I know you got another call. We'll talk with you again next week,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
Thank you, boys.
You got it. That's Joey Vitale joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario.
I forgot he had a 45 out, and when you said that, I'm like, well, yeah, I got one more because we got to ask about the other guys. And then when you said, I'm like, oh yeah, shoot, sorry, Joe.
Yeah, I looked over at Alex and peeked behind the curtain. I said, all right, time to wrap. And Alex looks at me and says, no, man, I've got one more. I was like,
I got to send some
Okay.
people forgot because I sent to the group text. It says,
Okay.
reminder, 45 hard out.
I'm going to send Joe a fruit basket as an apology. That was a rough. That one's on me. That one's on me.
you can go ahead and ask it, but I sure as hell am not.
I'll take. You know what? Joey can yell at me tomorrow on pregame.
Legit news there. Somebody on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/101ESPN STL from I am right 03. Why would Joey know? He's not an insider. A contraire, Joey knows a lot.
Joey literally is in the hotel with the players and talks to these guys on a daily basis.
And Alex, you know this because you're around Joey as much as anybody. Joey knows a lot.
Hell yeah, Joey knows a lot.
Joey's really good at weaving things in and out without saying, like, I am reporting X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Joey is very in tune with what is going on, not only here in St. Louis, but around the league. He has a lot of connections. He has a lot of people he talks to. So I'll just say that. He doesn't just say stuff to say stuff. So when he said, I don't think he's going to waive it, and we saw
Pat Maroon.
Jordan Schmaltz say earlier today, I'd be shocked if he waives it. We saw Pat Maroon say, I don't think he's going to waive it. Man, it sure seems like a lot of guys that have had some level of connection with Colton Parayko are all singing the exact same tune of, hey, man, it's great that you guys like this trade. It ain't happening.
Yeah. And good. I have been the largest Colton Parayko defender for the last 5 years in terms of people saying this guy's terrible, and I say no, he's really good. You're just not you're looking at him in the same angle as Alex Pietrangelo when he's not Alex Pietrangelo. That's why I asked that question to Joe. I do think he's 32 and there's concerns of what it looks like as he gets older. But I'm not worried about that because I want that guy teaching the Yuricheks and the Mailloux how to play defense for the St. Louis Blues. That's what's most important. Just like people wanted Jay Bouwmeester to re-sign a contract extension around the time that they won a Stanley Cup. Like, damn, this guy's good. Let's keep him around. I want Parayko at $6.5 million. I would love Murtka. If they can find a way to make that deal work for another defenseman or another group of players, sure. But if Parayko stays, I think that is still very healthy for this organization.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's 11:48. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. In 15 minutes, does a Colton Parayko deal, if it were to go through, make you more or less likely to deal Robert Thomas? We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. Alex?
I have some breaking news. Elliot Friedman, I'm double checking to make sure this is actually Elliot Friedman. Official Colton Parayko has declined to waive his no trade clause to Buffalo as his contractual right. We will see where we go from here.
There you go.
So Friedman saying Parayko has declined the trade to Buffalo.
We want to hear from you. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Dang it, man.
And as the dunces in Buffalo are going to say, this looks bad on us.
Yeah. Normally we do questions and answers coming up next. We will technically do that, but I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts, and we'll get to those next here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. I think there's a pretty significant divide on the text line right now, Alex. Some people are happy that Colton Parayko decided to decline the trade. Many people are furious about how this has all gone down and the fact that Colton Parayko will remain a Blue. What are your immediate thoughts on the news from Elliot Friedman that Colton Parayko has decided to decline the trade and to exercise his right to have his no trade clause?
I mean, honest, my feel is I'm glad he declined it. And it's not so much of how it was treated. I just think Colton Parayko is a good player you want around. I would love to have Radim Murtka in my system. That is a 9th overall pick. That's a 6'6" defenseman who's 19 years old, who might be better than what Colton Parayko is. But I don't know. And I know defensemen age well if they stay healthy. And Colton Parayko, despite what everybody feels about him, is a defenseman that can play 20-plus minutes a night, play very good defensively for you, is having a bad year offensively, but so are everybody on this roster. And it's a guy that I think can rebound in the right way. And it's a guy I'd want Jiricek and Mailloux and all of my other younger defensemen to be around moving forward. It's the same thing people were all excited when Jay Bouwmeester signed a contract extension around the Stanley Cup time because they were like, this guy's really good. That's Parayko, man. And
the timeline is very different, though. You have to acknowledge that. The
meaning where the team's at?
Different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be hypocritical and say, like, why do you want Robert Thomas to go and not Colton Parayko go?
I do think that's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
Why would that be?
Because I think Robert Thomas has not reached the ceiling that the Blues need him to reach to make themselves a competitor. I think Colton Parayko plays the same way every single night as a top pair defenseman who can shut down the other team's best. He shows what he can do every single night. I don't believe Robert Thomas has shown that. And that's where I fall on this one.
I would add that I think a lot of this is personality driven. I think many
I agree with that
like
statement.
Colton Parayko, and you may not agree with this sentiment. You may push back on it, and that's totally fair too. But I'm just saying, for my read on the situation, a lot of people that want Colton Parayko to be around, that don't want Robert Thomas to be around, a lot of it's related to that guy's an unbelievable human being, great in the locker room, great away from the team, does everything you've ever asked of him. Like, Colton Parayko isn't the kind of rah-rah guy that you would typically expect to be a captain, but everything else that comes with a letter, Colton Parayko is that in spades. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy, it's very rare in professional sports nowadays. I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. I was giving her all my takes before I give them to you.
Oh, you practice?
It's very rare in pro sports that a guy spends more than a decade with one team. It almost never happens anymore. Free agency, trades, all of these different things. Colton Parayko is that guy for the Blues. He's the one player that is just drafted by the Blues, became a champion with the Blues, became a man with the Blues, spent basically the entirety of his career with the Blues, and now he's choosing to remain a Blue. And I think there's something kind of special about that. I understand if you don't see it that way today because you wanted the 19-year-old defenseman in the first-round pick and you see this as an opportunity for them to get younger, get better for the future. I totally get that. But from a human perspective, I think this is a pretty cool story here in St. Louis.
Yeah, I think people are upset more about the Parayko not moving because they wanted the young prospect back in return, and I get that. But I still feel as if this team is going to look massively different by next season, which means if you're trading a lot of these guys, you're still going to get high returns on most of them. You're still going to be able to reset your pipeline and bring in the right prospects that can get you excited for the future while trying to remain somewhat competitive, and a Colton Parayko provides that. I mean, I did not want Logan Mailloux and Matt Kessel and Adam Jiricek playing 20-plus minutes a night next season.
I do think they would have signed somebody.
I think it's probably maybe because you have to get to the floor,
Yeah.
but I don't know who wants to come to St. Louis, and it's not anybody that provides.
It's a rebound guy.
I know, but it doesn't provide that safety net for some of those younger guys, and I do think that's important on defensemen.
Though they could make trades, they could go out and sign players. Like, for as much as guys don't want to go play somewhere, money changes that. Maybe it does incentivize somebody to make that decision, and they're not just going to go into next year if they had made this deal with Logan Mailloux is their number one defenseman. I wouldn't anticipate that. They'd have somebody that's playing alongside Broberg and Fowler, whoever else is remaining.
My tinfoil was I think they would have kept Faulk if they moved Parayko.
From the 801, guys, what are the odds that Parayko waiving his no trade clause will lead to other players
Not waiving
theirs?
So meaning Parayko said no, so other guys
Correct.
will.
Thank you for asking that better.
I think, well, Faulk and Shen don't have the same protection. Theirs is only a 15-team trade. So those guys, they could get moved to a place that's not on their no-trade list. I think you're asking about Thomas and Kyrou, and I'm going off of the reporting that Jeremy Rutherford has put to light. I think both are probably not on board with a 3-year retool/rebuild. I think they'll be more willing to waive their no-trade, but it's got to be a team that is competitive now. I think if Thomas was presented to Buffalo, again, my speculation, I think he probably would have been on board with that because that's a team that's set up to win now. Parayko, I don't know if he's in that same timeline. He might be, like Joey said, somebody who wants to be a part of this moving forward.
Yeah, I think each player, it's different individually. This isn't like a team aspect of we're in arms together. I'm not going anywhere.
None of us are doing it.
We're doing this together in St. Louis. I think it is if Thomas or Kyrou are frustrated with either the scenario that the Blues are heading down or with whatever their role might be on the team, then they may decide ultimately, I will decide to waive my no trade for whoever it is you trade me to.
I do wonder if Buffalo and St. Louis continue this conversation and just move to Faulk. Faulk had to have been, in just in my opinion, in these conversations. Maybe it was with the Thomas and Faulk. Maybe you go back to the table and say, look, Parayko's not going. What about Faulk?
I mean, Buffalo's radio hosts would like that.
They'd like him more than Parayko.
314-399.
At least he's not a depth defenseman.
9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, now that the Parayko thing is dead, who do you think is the next player to go?
I think Faulk. I think their next pivot's going to be Faulk on the right side.
I think the next one you're going to hear is Thomas.
I wonder about Kyrou.
Kyrou's the one that
we haven't heard much about him at all. And that's always when I think that something may be up.
That is what worries me. It feels like they had about 5 irons in the fire, and this was just the first one that went down. Pierre LeBrun reported this this morning. I do wonder if they try and get the Thomas thing resolved because he's going to have to make a decision before 2 o'clock tomorrow if he gets moved. But I think the next guy that gets moved is probably either Faulk or Kyrou.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, do you think they could get that young defenseman without the pick for Justin Faulk? That seems like a really big overpay for Faulk.
I think you're going to have to, Faulk won't do it. It's going to have to be Kyrou or Thomas to get that guy.
Agreed.
Kyrou's an interesting one. If he's somebody you really think could be a part of it, I don't know what the appetite is for Buffalo to go get another goal scorer. Seems like they need goalie, defense, and center. At least that's what it seems like they want.
All right, a little bit of news to pass along. This comes from Tom Pelissero. It's been reported elsewhere as well. The Bills are sending a 2026 second-round pick to the Bears for DJ Moore and a 5th-round pick. So the Bills are getting DJ Moore. It sounds like he's going to change around his contract a little bit to tie him to the Bills organization for years. Bills getting DJ Moore for a 2nd-round pick. Alex, I don't mind the player going to the Bills. I like this. 2nd-round pick is a very hefty price, and it also makes me wonder what the price is going to be for a guy like A.J. Brown, who I would imagine you're talking about a 1st and a 3rd, maybe more than that for A.J. Brown. So big pick to give up for DJ Moore, but good player nonetheless.
I just would have gone to the free agency and signed Mike Evans and kept the 2nd-round pick. And I don't know, maybe draft a wide receiver with a 2nd-round pick rather than drafting tight ends in the 1st round. But that'll be the general manager blaming the next head coach.
Yep. He'll get fired too. Coming up next, what should we anticipate if the Blues go back to market with Robert Thomas now? There is a piece over in the Daily Faceoff on what packages could look like. I'll pass some of those along to Alex Ferrario, get his perspective on them next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK, so it's officially over. We don't have to talk about it anymore. Colton Parayko has declined a deal to Buffalo. If you missed it, that is according to multiple reports that are out there. He has invoked his no-trade clause, so he will be sticking, at least for now, with the St. Louis Blues. We do now have a lot of other conversations to have, though, Robert Thomas being maybe chief among them. We heard all the speculation about a possibility of him going to Buffalo. They couldn't agree to terms on that. There was some thought that maybe he would be open to the idea of playing in Buffalo, Alex. There's a new piece over on the Daily Faceoff breaking down, hey, what could the possible trade packages look like if the Blues were to move on from Robert Thomas? These deals, to me, just my perspective, look a lot more realistic than some of the fan fiction stuff that had been out there from other teams, saying, yeah, we'll give you our fifth best prospect, a first-round pick, and this player that is on the NHL roster that we want to get rid of just to make the salary work.
Yeah, we'll give you 3 AHL guys for Robert Thomas.
That's not going to work. That's not going to be enough to be able to incentivize Doug Armstrong to make this move.
Correct.
So I think these are some interesting trade proposals. These are all from Anthony DeMarco over on the Daily Faceoff, who's done really excellent work at this year's trade deadline. I want to pass these along to you, Alex, because you're my prospect guy. You know all of these dudes far more so than I do. The Boston Bruins deal that they have proposed for Robert Thomas. First-round pick, of course.
Good.
James Higgins.
Deal.
The number 7 overall pick in 2025. He's a center prospect. Matthew Poitras. He was the number 12 overall pick in the 2020 draft. He's a center prospect as well. I think he's dealt with some injuries, if I'm not mistaken.
This season he's dealt with some injuries. Last season I think he did as well, the last couple of seasons.
Mason Laurie as well.
Yep.
Left-handed defenseman, number 20 or number 58 overall in the 2020 draft as well. So first-round pick, James Higgins. Those are the real prizes here. And then a couple other prospects, Matthew Poitras and Mason
Laurie. I would do that deal. James Higgins is viewed as probably, let me refresh what the scout had told me about James Higgins. But James Higgins is viewed as like the next big thing in terms of a centerman for what he can do and what he can play. He's right now over in college, 20 goals, 40 points in 30 games for Boston College. So if that's the deal that they offered, yeah, I would look at that one.
So that's the first one. We do have a little bit of news here from Frank Saravalli that I wanted to pass along. According to him, the Blues defenseman Colton Parayko is open to a trade to a different destination, but does prefer to stay in St. Louis. Will not go to Buffalo, an outcome not all that different from Tyler Myers with Detroit. Will another team pay the same price that Buffalo put on the table now becomes the question. So that's the latest tweet from Frank Saravalli. Before we continue with these trade proposals, hypothetical, for Robert Thomas, let's break down this actual news, Alex. Do you think Colton Parayko will end up somewhere else?
I'd put it at a 50-50 shot because I think what happens now, another team that thought they could get Colton Parayko but didn't even make the call or maybe was told no.
Sure.
Saw that, hey, he will get traded or he could get traded. The Blues will trade him. You're going to have to pony up, though, because that was the equivalent of a 9th overall pick and a first-round pick. Plus, remember, Darren Dreger said there was more to it. They just didn't know what it was because the deal hadn't been confirmed. I think this is probably a selective few teams Colton Parayko has identified that he'd go to, that those teams don't have the capital to trade to the Blues. So I would lowball it and say no way he's going to go, but I do think if a team comes calling, and teams will now that they know he's available, there's a chance.
I think the only way he goes is if there's multiple teams that are not only interested but are willing to get into a bidding war. Because you had Buffalo, they were desperate, clearly, to get this deal done with the Blues. They had interest in Robert Thomas. They had interest in Colton Parayko. They wanted both of them. Now that it's out there that Parayko is available, the price goes down, especially for a player with a full no-trade clause where he gets to determine where he's going. He's apparently open, according to this report from Frank Saravalli, for multiple teams. You're going to need multiple to get in on this for him to go. I would say right now, I would bet on him not being dealt at the deadline. Maybe there's something in the offseason, but for right now, I would bet against it.
I really wonder if Boston comes calling or Detroit comes calling.
That's who my first thought
or
was.
Montreal. Montreal could come calling as well. Like the teams that have been involved with the Justin Faulk conversations now come back to the Blues and say, hey, Parayko's free. Now let's start talking.
All right, the other deals that have been proposed in this piece for Robert Thomas over in the Daily Faceoff, the Montreal Canadiens, team that we've heard a lot of speculation about. Start with the first-round pick. All right, there we go. We got that on the table, ready to go.
No protection on that first-round pick either way.
Owen Beck, the 33rd overall selection in the 2022 NHL draft. He is a center as well. He's had a cup of coffee at the NHL level. Hasn't done much there, but 21 years old, still a lot of pedigree there.
He's done a pretty good job in the minor leagues. He's got last 2 seasons, he scored 23 goals in the minors.
Michael Hage, the big center prospect for them as well, is included in this deal. And then a player that we talked a lot about in the NHL draft a couple of years ago, David Reinbacher, the number 5 overall selection defenseman from the right side, 6'3", 210 pounds. He is also in this deal, speculated by the Daily Faceoff.
This might surprise you. I wouldn't do this deal.
Wow.
Reinbacher's got to be Goulet if I'm making the trade. Because I like Owen Beck. I think he's a third-line center at best. He's 22. Hage is the one that you hope can replace Robert Thomas. I was told that he might not stay at center long-term. He could become a winger, which a little bit problematic. But Reinbacher, to me, has not been what he was when he was drafted. He's in the AHL right now, hasn't been performing that well. And unless I'm getting a difference maker on the right side, I've got Jiricek and Mailloux right now and Colton Parayko because he's here. I need help on the left side, and that's where Goulet comes in. So I would say no to that deal unless they put Goulet over Reinbacher.
Interesting. Reinbacher was a big-time prospect in that draft. I remember we talked about him as a possible option for the Blues.
Significantly has dropped over these last couple of years in terms of his development.
Okay. Next one up, the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's start it out with the obvious.
Never even heard this team.
First round pick. All right. We got the starting point.
Cooking with gas.
Bobby Brink is another one that they have thrown into this deal. He's a 5'8", $170 winger.
Jesus.
34th overall selection back in 2019. This
is a
season
throw-in
for the Flyers, he has 41 points in 79 games. Last year had 23 points in 57 games.
You better make this deal spicy because that's not a good start.
Porter Martone.
Yep.
He was the 6th overall pick in last year's draft. There's your spicy, Alex. 6'3", 210 pounds, playing at Michigan State right now.
T-Bone likes it.
He's a big winger.
Big mongoon.
With top 10 pick from just last year. And then Oliver Bunk. Is the
Remember
other
you
one.
made fun of him the other day.
6'2", $176, right-handed defenseman, playing for none other than the London Knights.
I'd turn this deal down too.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I don't need a winger.
No centerman.
No centerman. I don't need a winger. I'm not even in
3 proposed deals over on
They
the
didn't have
Daily
Utah
Faceoff.
in there.
They did not.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't do that deal. You need a centerman. And if the centerman's in there, you still have to make it spicy enough for me. Like, I don't think Hage is enough. You got to get more than that. So the best deal that they put out there was Boston because you got a potential of a number 1 center. You have another depth center, the first-round pick, and you've got a top 4 defenseman who's 25 years old that plays the left side.
If you told me that the winger was somewhat, and I don't know much about that guy, but
he was the guy that I had talked about in that draft.
He's big, and that sounds
He's a power forward.
Yeah, I'm probably out on him then. But what I bring up here is if you are convinced that the winger that a team is offering you up could become like a 40-goal scorer here at the NHL level, and you're getting a defenseman and a first-round pick, a defenseman that you really like, not just a throw-in, I'm okay with making a deal without a centerman in the deal because when you trade Robert Thomas, you're going into a rebuild.
Yeah, but how's the winger going to score 40 goals without a centerman?
Well, here's my point on it. When you go into a rebuild, you've got time to figure out what that centerman's going to look like. So maybe you don't have that answer by the time we get to the offseason. Maybe you find that answer in the offseason or you find it at the following year's draft. Like, I think you've got time to figure that out. Now, yes, you've got a great point. I mean, he may not become a 40-goal scorer without an elite centerman. That's a fair point. But I don't think it is a necessity that you have to get who you think is your replacement for Robert Thomas in a trade of his ilk.
Here's my question for you, Alex. I just gave you a NHL insider's thoughts on what he thinks is available out there, what he thinks are realistic trade proposals. For you, somebody that is local to St. Louis and follows this team and understands the value of a guy like Robert Thomas, who are the teams that you think they should be targeting, and who are some of the players that you say, like, forget the package. In this kind of a deal, you're targeting players.
Yeah.
Who are the players that if you're in Doug Armstrong's shoes, prospects, whatever, that you would be targeting in any Robert Thomas deal?
So I think there's two teams, and I think it's Boston and Utah. And Boston, you just said it. Hagens would be the guy that I'm circling. It's plus more, but Hagens is the number one return that we can start these conversations with. And Utah, we start these conversations with Desnoyers. Because to me, and I've said this a lot, the only way I'm trading Robert Thomas is if I'm getting a younger potential Robert Thomas in return. And I think those are the only two teams that can offer it up. Now, Buffalo has that Consta that we talked about potentially getting moved. I was told he's a good winger. He's got scoring, but he's not big. I don't know what that means in terms of the number one center. But I was told that Desnoyers has got a lot of Nico Hischier in him, and I was told James Hagens will be a guy that drives offense for the Boston Bruins. So those are the two guys that we will start the conversation. But again, I think there has to be a defenseman, a young defenseman involved in that trade, a first-round pick, and another high, if not top prospect in return in that deal.
Little bit of news to pass along. Seeking solutions for college sports, Donald Trump is convening a presidential roundtable. T-Bone, I want to get your thoughts on this at the White House next week. I'm kidding. Invitees include Nick Saban, billionaires like David Blitzer, the NBA commissioner, and stars like Tiger Woods. As Friday's White House meeting draws near, the picture has become more clear on who is going to be attending, including many listed in the previous story on Yahoo Sports. Plus, new names have emerged, including Clay Travis of Outkick the Coverage and U.S. Senators Ted Cruz and Eric Schmidt of Missouri. Some unable to attend include Tim Tebow and Bryson DeChambeau. So there's your update on what is taking place with politics that are getting involved in the college landscape. Donald Trump putting together a roundtable to discuss what they can do to fix the NIL
It's not a political show.
More importantly, I just watched Dustin May throw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, and it looked
There we
good.
go. Let's
Any
transition.
thoughts on Ted Cruz, Nick Saban?
No. Coming up next, Logan Mailloux is starting to showcase why they traded for him. We are going to tell you why he is the next big thing next on BK and Ferrari. No, Mailloux next.
Go ahead. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK.
By the
So you
way,
want to talk about Mailloux
no,
here?
we're not getting into the politics, so don't even try. Real quick, Darren Dreger on a barn burner. Robert Thomas and the Utah Mammoth. From Dreger, I was told the Blues wanted Utah's top 3 prospects.
As they should.
And that would have been Iginla, Desnoyers, and I don't think they're going another forward, so they're probably getting Simashev.
Again,
That's the price.
if you're going to acquire a 26-year-old center with 5 years remaining of club control at a reasonable level in terms of his AAV, if you want that, this is the price that you get to pay in order to acquire it.
Yep, and
if you don't want to meet it, great.
We'll keep them.
We'll just keep the 26-year-old center with the potential to hit 100 points, and we'll be happy about it.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that some of these other teams' fan bases, as we've talked about
Are
this,
delusional?
they're like, oh, clearly the Blues are just trying to get rid of the guy. Nah, I don't think so.
No, they're actually trying to make their team better in the long run. It's just you're not going to you're making your team better now. They're making their team better 5 years from now. And is going to have to make you're going to have to pay. So that's why, and I think Pierre LeBrun was the one that reported a little bit ago as well, saying like the Blues are perfectly fine going into this season with Robert Thomas the rest of the way if they don't get moved. So to me, there's 2 teams that can make this deal. It's Boston and Utah. All these other teams can get on out of here because I don't think you have the pieces that the Blues will say yes to trading Robert Thomas
From
for.
Starvin Marvin, we can ask for that, but they're not going to pay it. No one is. It's an unrealistic ask. 2 of those would be enough. That would be a top 3 of their 10 assets. That's not what our ask was.
I actually agree with that. If I were to get one of Desnoyers or Iginla and Simashev, deal.
But the starting point, if
You
you're
always
Army,
ask for more.
is you ask for all 3.
Yeah.
Just as like if you're negotiating for a new salary with your place of employment.
I always go in and lowball them.
That's a choice.
Go in and say, hey, I don't want a lot of money.
If you're getting a new job and they say, hey, what are you looking for? You ask for a little more than what you're expecting. So that way, when they counter, you probably get roughly what you're looking for, right? The same thing is true if you're Doug Armstrong. You're going to ask for a little bit more, and then you come down from that asking price. There's no reason not to. But yeah, they should ask for a lot.
And then they'll circle back because you'd expect them to. And when they circle back, they say, cool, can we make this work? And that's when you go like, yeah, we'll take 2 of the 3.
Okay.
And if they agree to it.
So Logan Mailloux.
Yeah.
Hot damn, man. He's playing well lately.
He has doubled up what Zach Bolduc has done in terms of goals since the Olympic break.
Is that true?
Yeah, Bolduc has 0 goals. Logan Mailloux has 2 goals.
Okay.
If you double zero,
Wait,
zero.
I wasn't going to get into that, T-Bone. I chose my anxiety medicine and OCD medicine is
I'm not
absolutely
eating that
working
stuff,
today.
so-
I chose not to bring
What are you
that
talking
up.
about? He doubled it up.
0 plus 0, or 0 times 0, 0 times 2 is 0.
What have you seen that has been
Tanner.
different for Logan
I love
Mailloux in
Logan
his
Mailloux.
last 4 games, 19, 20, 20, and 23 minutes on the ice? What's been different, not just with time on ice, but his actual on-ice play in Europe?
His confidence. I mean, he looks like a guy that can play top 4 minutes. It's not just those time on ice, it's the scenarios that he's playing in. Last night, he played over 2 minutes on the penalty kill. He was on the ice in a 3-2 hockey game when Justin Faulk took that penalty, the delay of game penalty, that had Seattle 6-on-4 with over 2 minutes, and Mailloux was on the ice. There's no Parayko, no Faulk. Your 2 best penalty killers. Mailloux was out there, and they didn't score a goal. He's 22, 52, 20, 32, 20, 35, 1901, and he's been a plus in every one of those games. He has not done that yet this season. On top of that, his shot attempts in the last 4 games, he's got 21 shot attempts in 4 games. This guy not only is confident with the puck on his stick in his own end, he is now contributing on the offensive side. And this is the thing I think people forgot when the Blues acquired him. They looked at it as, well, he's terrible defensively. What's the point of acquiring him? They even told us, like, hey, defense comes. Offensively is what we saw in terms of potential with Logan Mailloux, and there's no coincidence. He's picking up points. He's putting pucks on net. He looks like a guy that can handle a top 4 role, and I am fascinated to see what it looks like the rest of the way because I think Zach Bolduc's role is clear, cut, and dry.
Third line winger.
Third line winger, power play threat, which is what he was here. And that's why they traded him because they said, we got a lot of guys that the floor is that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at
Being
all.
a third-line winger, that's a good player.
This is why when they drafted Justin Carbonneau, I told you guys, man, I think they might move Zach Bolduc, Snuggerud, on top of Stenberg, on top of Carbonneau, with Holloway and Neighbors. You've got too many wingers to play too many positions. So you dealt from the area that you were strong in for a guy that you said, yeah, he can come along. What is he, 22 years old? Logan Mailloux is a part of that core that they were building towards, and he looks like a guy that next season I would be very comfortable with playing in Justin Faulk's role.
2 goals, +5 in his last 4 games. That +5 is meaningful, man. You're playing 21 minutes a night on average, and you're a +5 while you've been on the ice, and you're doing that against Minnesota, New Jersey, Seattle a couple of times. He's at least a borderline playoff team this year.
He was a -7 in his first 4 games this season. So
he's trending in the right direction.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Bolduc is trending in the wrong direction. Not that it's always got to be a one versus the other kind of situation.
But that's how people measure it with players when you make trades. You go 1 for 1. And I think we talked about this, that by the end of this season in 3 years, you're going to look back and be like, not Zach Bolduc who, but you're going to look back and be like, oh, yeah, Zach Bolduc was a part of that team. Because they're going to see what Mailloux has done on top of what all of these wingers can do and say, yeah, they made the right move there because you were deficient on the right side behind Parayko, and now with Jiricek coming up, your right side is in a really good spot moving forward.
And this is always what the trade should have been about.
Yes.
It was never about him coming in.
I thought it was about the now.
And maximizing what they were going to be in 2026. It was always going to be a slow burn. He's a young defenseman that needed to get his feet wet at the NHL level, and if he went down to the AHL level to figure things out, so be it. Take your time, get this right, develop a young defenseman the way that he needs to be developed, and now we're starting to see that pay off. Yes, it's late. Yes, it's on a team that has no expectations the rest of the way, and we'll see what that means. We've seen this before, where the Blues come out and in the second half or post-Olympics, post-Four Nations, some guys have a great run in the second half, and that doesn't always translate to the next year. You want to see this kind of progress, though. It shows you that, hey, there is something there. That pedigree that he had in the NHL draft, maybe you could still extract some of that. And if he becomes a long-term second-pair defenseman for the Blues, that's a win. Yeah. It's a win of a trade, and you hope Jiricek can become maybe that top-pair guy 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Now you've started to build that out. Go over on the left side. You're feeling a little better about that right now. You got Broberg long-term. It adds into what is going to be the next core of whatever the Blues are going to be long term.
Yeah. I mean, it provides you positive feedback and it starts filling those holes, which is why I find this trade deadline / offseason fascinating. If they move Thomas, if they move Kyrou, you look at the team's big picture and say, where are their holes? I think behind Philip Broberg, you're weak on the left side defensively. You don't have Lindstein is a slow progressor right now in the minors, and you don't have anything else on the left side in terms of guys that could realistically be here in a couple of years. So you're deficient there. If you move Thomas, you're weak at the number 1 center position. Center depth is a little concerning minus Dvorsky, but you're strong on the wing. Like if you move Kyrou,
I would say you're strong in the middle 6 wing.
Sure. And the hope is that you draft that guy in this year's draft if you're bad enough for it, and then also Justin Carbonneau takes that step moving forward. So that's the area I would imagine if I'm the Blues, I'm looking to fill, which is why the report of Utah, it would be a Ginla and Desnoyers and a defenseman. I'm filling the left side, I'm filling a potential wing, and I'm filling my number 1 center.
Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll get into the junk drawer, but next. Do you view today, the end of the day today, as some sort of a deadline for the Blues with a no-trade clause? We'll explain our thoughts on that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues took down the Kraken last night. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the San Jose Sharks. We'll have pregame coverage tomorrow night starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Carber and Joey Vitale. In the news today for the St. Louis Blues, Colton Parayko blocked the trade to the Buffalo Sabres, and Elliot Friedman is just now reporting he's hearing Matthew Joseph, who cleared waivers last week, is heading back today on the purposes of terminating his contract. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. All right, I've got a question for you, Alex. I don't know if you have the answer to this. We just got this news that T-Bone passed along. Elliot Friedman saying that Matthew Joseph is headed back on waivers today for the purpose of contract termination. If he clears, he'll become a UFA and would be eligible to play in the playoffs as long as he signs before 3 o'clock on Friday. Does that mean that the Blues get that cap space? How does that work?
Yeah, he's terminating the contract the same as Brandon Saad and Alex Texier did. You open up that money. Here's my tinfoil on this whole thing. The Blues have probably been actively trying to trade him since he went through waivers, and nobody has been willing to pay what the Blues want. And so somebody contacts Matthew Joseph's agent and says, look, we want to sign you. We're not trading for you. So if you terminate your contract, we've got this contract on the table. Because remember, Saad terminated his contract, signed with Vegas that same day. Texier terminated his contract, signed with Montreal that same day. If he clears waivers, which to terminate your contract, you have to go through waivers again, just like you did when you were assigned. If nobody claims you, you're a free agent. You get that cap space free because it's a mutually terminated contract. And then another team can swoop in and sign you right away. Probably for $1 million.
Sure. Vet men.
Yeah. And I can't imagine the Blues are asking for an astronomical return, but they're probably asking for a third or a fourth round pick. And
I would
teams
think
are
at this point they're asking for the lowest possible
probably
prospect.
But I think if you're the Blues, you're just asking for something. Yeah. And another team's like, no, I'm not going to pay you
we
that.
Can see the writing on the wall. Yeah. We're not going to do that.
He's not going to stay there. We know you're going to have to buy him out. So yeah, we'll wait.
Also,
he scored a goal last night, by the way, for the Thunderbirds. That's wild.
Probably why someone wants him now.
Probably.
Marco D'Amico, who's doing some really good work up in Montreal, he reports the following. There are other teams looking seriously to upgrade at right-handed defense. Parayko may be more open to being traded there. Detroit has been active on that front. We know Boston has been talking to the Blues about some right-handed defensemen. Senators are also in that hunt. We'll see if other teams are willing to step up. He then just followed up with something else. He said he reported on Monday that the Blues are asking for 3 to 4 premium pieces in their price for Robert Thomas. They have not backed down on that at all. The top six center market is in a holding pattern because of the Robert Thomas availability. Trocheck and Kadri situations are also unresolved.
This is why I think today is a deadline for Robert Thomas. I think Doug has kept the price there. Teams told him originally, no, we're not paying that. And I think the teams that want Robert Thomas circle back today to say, have you lowered your asking price? And if not, they're going to move on because that's where Vincent Trocheck comes into play. Nazem Kadri, I have to imagine, is looking at this as like, yeah, let's move out because Calgary just traded Mackenzie Weegar. I feel like today is when you'll have some type of answer on teams with Robert Thomas because they've got to make their other adjustments. I have a feeling that a lot of teams view Vincent Trocheck as there's no chance. He's only said he's playing on the East Coast. So all of these Western Conference or these West Coast teams, they're out on him. So it's East Coast playoff teams that he has said he's going to go to. I really think there's only a handful, maybe like 2 teams that are like realistically provided something for them. So I don't believe that sense. I just think teams are looking at this as we've got to have an answer on this before we go any further.
Do you view today as because you mentioned this for Thomas, but for all of the guys on the Blues that have that no trade protection, do you think today is the deadline? Like tomorrow is technically the true trade deadline. At the end of our show, we will have answers on who is dealt. But given what we just saw with the Colton Parayko situation, where he basically took, 12 hours or so, 24 hours almost, to decide if he's going to stay or go, don't you kind of need that time as well for some of these other players?
Yeah, it's why I wonder if Doug basically told these teams, look, if you want these guys, you got to call me by this time because I got to present them with the offer. Now, this doesn't mean a team can call them at 1 o'clock tomorrow and say, okay, we're ready to pull the trigger on Thomas. And you go to them and say, hey, you got an hour to make this decision.
No pressure.
Yes. And then I think it's a deadline. If you're a Blues fan that you want to see some of these guys moved, today would be the day that it's more realistic that they get traded, because if you hear them of a potential trade tomorrow, minus Faulk and Shen, who have modified trade clauses, there's little time to make a decision, and a big decision like what Thomas or Kyrou or Faulk or Parayko would have to make, you're not going to make that in a matter of a couple of hours.
Yeah, I actually don't think today is a deadline for these guys. And the reason I say that is I think all these guys are pretty much aware their name's out there, and they've all probably had the conversations with their loved ones, their family, their friends, and said, okay, where are we open to going? So I think most of the guys outside Parayko, who was potentially blindsided by it yesterday, who probably didn't think he was going to be in this conversation, but Kyrou and Thomas, who they've known their names out there, I think they've already got an idea of, okay, if Army comes to me and says, Utah's available, Thomas has probably already decided if he wants to go to Utah or not.
Especially with all the rumors.
Yeah, maybe he's decided he hasn't. Maybe he's already decided, I don't want to go to Utah. So when Army presents it, he can immediately go, nope, try again.
That's a good point.
I don't think there's a deadline today. I think you might get like an hour before the deadline ends. So like 1 o'clock tomorrow might be the true deadline for the Blues.
Because all of those guys have been addressed. Like Parayko, we found out that he wasn't a part of that group. All of these other guys have been told, like, hey, think about where you're going to want to go, because we're fielding calls and we could get some at some point. It's a good point, T-Bone.
It's a really good point, because I guess the outlier here in this scenario is Colton Parayko.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know.
He was the only one that wasn't included in the group.
These other guys have apparently, according to multiple reports, been told for a week, hey, we're listening. We're talking to other teams. Start preparing yourself on where you're willing to go and where you're not. I'm not asking you for a list right now, but for some of them, like the guys that have them modified, those guys already submitted their list. Braden Shin, they know where they have to talk to him for some teams. For a lot of teams across the league, they don't have to talk to him. It's only half the league, basically. Same thing is true for Justin Faulk. If we trade you to half of these teams across the league, we don't even have to go to you. But for guys like Parayko and Kyrou and Thomas and Booch, I guess if you want to add him into the mix, those are the only four that have a legit full no trade. Maybe Cam Fowler, I'm not totally sure how his contract works, because technically he's still on his old deal, which was a modified, but his new deal has a full no trade clause, so maybe that would be another one that we have to throw in there.
Talking Fowler? Yeah. His is the one that I don't know. Like, it was a 4.
What were you doing?
No, I was reading a couple of tweets. I heard what you were saying, but like Fowler's the one that I don't know, because his was what, a 14 no trade?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. I was reading. Dude, there's so much going on right now. You can't expect me to be listening at all times. There's like 18 different things flying out right now.
Yeah. And by the way, like this would make sense now. Like originally I thought when we heard when Elliot Friedman had they had the meeting with the guys with the no trade clauses, like, but it doesn't scream Army, right? Typically I would think Army would go the operation of, hey, I'll go to the guys when the trade is done. I think he did that because he knows some of this is going to be last minute, last hour decisions on, is Utah finally going to cave in? And he got ahead of this. That way there was no surprise. You've been dealt. You've got 30 minutes now. Figure out if you're going to be packing your bags and moving your life to Utah for the next 5 years. So honestly, good on Army to actually try and get ahead of this for some of those guys.
Yeah, and not so great on the Parayko side of things. From the 3-1-4.
Doesn't get a gold star.
Guys, why waste your time talking and settling on a trade with the Sabres, not knowing if Parayko would even be open to it? Is it just me, or does that seem backwards? So they always do this, or the Blues,
from our understanding,
the way they operate, our understanding is they do not come to the player to ask if they will officially waive their no trade clause until the deal is done. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you would potentially operate that way. Now, this is just on that specific thing. I want to get back into Parayko here in a second, but on the why do you go to the player after the deal is done? One, you don't want it leaked. And once the player knows, now you don't know who they're telling. They could tell friends, they could tell family, they could tell reporters, they could tell their agent, who then goes to reporters, and then it gets leaked nationally, and that's not great. The other thing is, do you really want to go to Parayko and tell him, we're trading you, if you don't know if the deal is done yet?
Yeah.
Or do you wait? Because if the deal never actually comes to terms and you don't agree 100% on everything with Buffalo, well, I don't really want to go to one of my best players and say we're trading you until we have actually completed those terms. So that's why. That being said, I do think it is important, this is my perspective, to go to the player beforehand, just in the bigger picture, to say, hey, you're probably going to hear some stuff. We're not sure if anything's going to come from this, but given the direction of our team and given your age, it might make some sense for us to listen. Just start thinking about what you'd be open to. That's the thing where I think they maybe missed with Parayko, but it seems like they did that with basically everybody else. So I don't know.
I
don't hate the way they operate. I hated the way they specifically operated with Parayko.
I still just wonder if they had no intentions of moving Parayko, and then all of a sudden Buffalo was like, hey, we'll give you this guy that you really want and not for Robert Thomas with Colton Parayko. And then they were like, okay, well, we didn't expect this, but we really like this guy. Yeah, let's pull it off. And then you follow the process that at least we've heard Doug Armstrong goes through, to where the trade goes down and then you go. I just think this wasn't something that Doug Armstrong was presented for 24 hours of Murtka for Parayko and then just like, let me sleep on it and then I'll go back to Buffalo tomorrow. I think this wasn't a phone call that was, hey, Parayko for Murtka, and it's like, yes, please, let's do this deal, and then we'll go back to Colton Parayko and figure it out.
Have you thought at all? Like, we just saw what the deal was reportedly for Parayko from Buffalo. Have you allowed yourself to think about what it could have been if it was Parayko and Thomas?
Yeah, I can, because I really think it would have been Power or Byram plus multiple top forward prospects and a first-round pick, and probably like I looked at that as that would have been the deal that the Blues have been trying. That's why Robert Thomas is out there. Of, hey, Thomas is going to bring us back this. And now you want Parayko. Oh, my gosh, we'll be able to not only upgrade our forward position, but also make our defense ready to compete next year. Because if you get Power or Byram, and you've got Power, Byram, Mailloux, Jiricek next season, I know I said you can't go with those two younger guys on the right side. You can if you've got two guys on the left that can eat those minutes and play at the NHL. So that's
you also
why
have Power who can play on the right.
Exactly. And so I allowed myself to think it because it would have been a massive deal to the same response that I've already imagined what it would look like if Utah agreed to trading for Robert Thomas. Because that's a deal that I don't want to trade Robert Thomas. I don't want to trade Colton Parayko. But it's so good that it would be hard to say no to.
Can you imagine? Can you think of something that would have been that big that we've seen in recent history? I mean, we're talking Thomas and Parayko, two legitimately proven guys locked up
those
on
two
term,
in a deal?
In a deal, going to Buffalo, in which you would have seen a guy like a Power or a Byram and then a bunch of prospects and potentially picks involved in it. Like, I can't think of a deal that's been swung like that in the NHL.
Closest thing would be Matthew Tkachuk deal.
But
that's different. That's four.
But it was two guys on the other side.
The other side was kind of similar to what we're talking about, where it's Mackenzie Weegar and Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah.
That was to upgrade for one specific player. This would be the opposite, where you're going for prospects and stuff. But that's probably the closest comparison would be the Weegar and Huberdeau side of that deal.
And you would be trying to get the equivalent of a younger Matthew Tkachuk, meaning like Tkachuk was already a well-established superstar in the NHL. You spread that out to a minor league system and a pipeline, you're asking for 3 to 4 of those minor league guys that equate to what Matthew Tkachuk is at the NHL.
The value of Tkachuk would be the value of these guys.
That's why the reported deal with Utah of what Drager said, that it was their top 3 prospects. That's how you immediately shift to the now and you start trying to be competitive with that group when you pull off a deal like that.
You guys watching any of this Dustin May start today?
I've seen he's throwing gas.
You yelled at me earlier when I got distracted by something and I wasn't paying attention.
I got distracted from May start by seeing Frank Cervalli updated his trade board.
I got a Kevin Weeks bomb.
And it's number 1 is Justin Faulk on his trade board.
But Kevin Weeks just put this one out here, said, Parayko, I'm told his preference as of now is to stay in the West, and he's open to the Kings and Anaheim Ducks among potential landing spots.
All right, well, the fact that a list is getting out there speaks to, I think something might happen.
Yeah.
You typically don't see stuff like that where specific teams are referenced, unless there's a reason for it.
Boy, the Kings are a fascinating one because remember,
Byfield?
They sniffed around on Robert Thomas too.
Byfield?
It could be a Parayko and Thomas for a bigger deal where it's Byfield, Brant Clark, something like that.
And Anaheim's interesting because they've got a bunch of young talent.
Anaheim's weird, man. I haven't heard them in on anything.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't heard Anaheim as a part of anything, and they're in second place, 1 point out from being the best team in the Pacific.
This is different, though, man. When you've got Parayko, you've got Thomas, those are the kind of assets that, maybe I'm not in on, Trocheck. Maybe I'm not in on Nazem Kadri or Myers or whoever these other guys are that are getting dealt that are just a dime a dozen. Every deadline you see those guys dealt.
Yeah.
But Colton Parayko, You don't see that dealt very often at the trade deadline. Robert Thomas, you never see that dealt at the trade deadline. So maybe these teams like the Kings, the Ducks, some of these others, they're interested in the legit top of market, not necessarily the typical run-of-the-mill second to third pair defensemen that you're kind of squinting to see how they fit into your mix.
But Buffalo thought that was Colton Parayko, so
Buffalo fans.
If this is why I expected more teams to start calling, because now everybody in the NHL saw that Colton Parayko is available, and now what you do is you start calling and say, "Cool, let's go get this guy." Which also should tell you, by the way, Parayko is an awesome defenseman, and it's why I'm okay with him being here. Just like I know if Thomas is still here, I'm okay with it. People are calling for these guys because they're difference makers, and if you get the return, it helps your team out.
Reason I brought up Dustin May, his four-seam is averaging 98 today, and his sinker is averaging 96. Last year, his sinker averaged 94, and his four-seam averaged 95. That is a noteworthy change for a guy like Dustin May, and there are real tangible reasons why that would be the case, because of the weight loss that we saw from him from the last couple of years with all of the injuries and the esophagus issue that he had. He had mentioned previously, hey, I'm up like 20, 25 pounds from where I was previously. This is a noteworthy change to the point where I'm interested in dreaming on this a little bit. That looks like the Dustin May of old. I don't know what it means. I don't know what he's going to be for the Cardinals this year, but it's the first inkling of what could be a decent pitcher for the Cardinals this year, like a legit middle of the rotation starter.
He just got BK. Hoden's going to get hurt again.
Yep, here comes an injury.
Way to go.
Am I wrong, though? You guys disagree with that?
I kind of agree on him. Yeah, the fact that he's throwing harder should help him get closer to what he was. Because like last year when I would watch him in games when he's with the Dodgers and Red Sox, I mean, I would look at his slider and the way he was throwing that, go, man, this pitch is disgusting. But yet then I'd look at his numbers and go, why is this guy getting killed every time he steps on the mound? It's because he didn't have a fastball to help play off of it. So, yeah, it's interesting. And then you add in the fact that you got him that's throwing 99. Libertor's velo was 97 at times yesterday, I think I saw. And then Fitz is out there throwing like 97 as well. It suddenly starts becoming a rotation. I still don't think it's going to be a very good rotation, but it's at least an interesting rotation.
100%. That's all. That's a great point. Maybe not great. Interesting, though.
Yeah.
And I'll take interesting.
Took back his compliment to you. Did you say it was a great point and then said maybe not great?
No. Like the rotation.
In terms of, I got you. I thought you meant like T-Bone. Great point. And then it's like, well, maybe it wasn't great. I'm like, damn, man, you just took his compliment away.
It is a great point by T-Bone that the rotation might not be great, but it could be interesting. Coming up in about 15 minutes. So much for this being a buyer's market, eh? We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Junk Drawer next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's famous frozen custard off of Chippewa. Open daily for its 97th season. That's right. It has been a St. Louis tradition since 1929, and it gives you the best flavors you can ask for. Concretes, malt, shakes, sundaes, floats, ice cream, sodas, all of it available for you at Ted Drewes. It's fourth-generation, family-run business that is built on quality service and a love for St. Louis. And you see that when you go out there, the traditions being made, the fun times being had. I love getting to do it. Fridays during the summertime are me and my girls' days to where we're able to go out to Ted Drewes. And that's what it's all about, having those memories built at Ted Drewes. Plus, a little pro tip for you: when you go out there and pick whatever concrete or sundae you want, buy it in the court, take it home with you, pop it in the freezer, and have Ted Drewes at home whenever you would like. Plus, while you're out there, make sure you walk across the parking lot and check out their gift shop and historical museum, where you can see tons of St. Louis memorabilia. You could buy Ted Drewes apparel and, of course, Ted Drewes gift cards. Plus, they're hiring, so if you're looking for a spring-summer job, go over to Ted Drewes online at teddrews.com and find out more information on applying. Ted Drewes, famous frozen custard. It's real custard, real tradition. St. Louis tradition. It's Ted Drewes.
Alex, we've got some new airline policy that I want to throw your way.
Okay, it sounds like I won't be.
The other day about Tampa and the airport that they've got and how they don't want people coming in pajamas anymore.
Hallelujah.
Well, United Airlines, I think my prediction is that Alex will like this policy. United Airlines now says that airlines can ban passengers who use their phone with the volume on without headphones in.
I'm with you.
Amen to that. So basically, you can't fly on my plane if you don't have decency for other human beings.
Correct. According to the new policy, United can refuse transport, remove a passenger from a flight, or in some cases, permanently ban a customer who does not adhere to the new policy. The rule also states that a passenger removed from the flight might be eligible for a refund.
Love it. Love it.
You now, if you're going on a United flight and you're planning to listen to music, you're planning to play one of your games, whatever it is, watch a movie, you can still do that.
Just turn your damn volume down or have headphones.
Either no volume, you're watching it on silent with some kind of subtitles or whatever.
Oh, don't be a psychopath. Bring headphones.
You have headphones in.
Because
That's
you know
your
what?
choice.
Why should I suffer because you're dumb and didn't plan properly to have your headphones?
I'm in on
Why should I suffer? How hard is it? There's nothing more annoying than when you see somebody on speakerphone like this with the volume all the way up. How hard is it to do this?
It drives me crazy when it's in public and even when it's just like with a family member at the house. Drives me crazy.
Pisses me
When somebody's on
off.
speaker?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't need to hear your conversation.
Yeah. Why?
In public, I tend to agree. At home, like
Even
at
around
home, I'm
family,
there.
it's annoying.
Yeah.
Really? That doesn't bother me.
My
at
mom,
all.
I'm going to call her out. My mom is on speakerphone all the time when I'm at the house on calls. I'm going, Mom, I don't need to hear what you and your team are talking about at work.
Are you in this scenario, what are you guys doing? Like, is there
We're
other
just at
stuff
the house.
going
Like,
on?
I may be watching television, right? Like, I've got a game on. I'm watching a game. And all of a sudden, I hear from the kitchen, well, hey, Doris, how are you? And I'm like,
Is it a long conversation?
Yeah, it's like a 10-minute conversation.
Okay.
And you can hear Doris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to hear
If
Doris.
it's a few minutes, whatever.
No.
harm, no foul. If they're going on and on and on
And then, like, when she's
and
at
we're
my
catching up
place,
with
she's
second
on her
cousins and stuff.
iPad.
There's just no reason for it. Like you're pressing a button. You're actively pressing a button to put it on speaker when all you have to do is
Exactly.
just put it off of speaker and put it to your ear.
Exactly.
When I first saw this news, I thought it was saying that everybody on the plane had to wear headphones. Like, to get on the plane, you had to have headphones. And I was like,
Also
that's
okay
a
with
really
that.
weird rule.
No,
but now
I'm
that
okay
I
with
read the
that.
fine print, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I actually am very much in favor of this.
I'm okay with that too, but you should always have to have headphones if you're listening to something on in public, because nobody should have to suffer to listen
And
to
at
the
the
crap
house.
you want to listen to.
And at the house. I don't need to hear the Facebook reel blaring from your iPad. Okay?
That I agree with.
Put your headphones on if you're going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. in
Plan
15
better.
minutes, believe it or not. But next, I thought this was supposed to be a buyer's market. So much for that. We'll get into it next year on 101 ESPN. It's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. You can do so online at victorymenshealth.com. When you get over there, you can see all that they have to offer. For me, going in there, unlocking my inner champion was getting my micronutrient levels checked, finding out, all right, where am I deficient? Where am I good? And what does that mean for me? They put together a personalized plan, and now they've unlocked my inner champion. They can do the same thing for you. Maybe that's not what you're looking for. Maybe it is erectile dysfunction issues that you're dealing with, low testosterone symptoms that you've been feeling, or maybe it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. It can be difficult out there. They can help you out with those weight loss goals at victorymenshealth.com. Book that first appointment today. Do so online at victorymenshealth.com. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. It really is that simple. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and you can book them online at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. Was it Darren Drager who said that this is a buyer's market?
Somebody said it. We talked about it on the air yesterday.
Yeah.
So I believe it was Darren Drager. And when he said
Was it Pagnotta? It might have been Pagnotta.
I was like,
Oh, yeah, no, it was Drager.
That's disappointing because that would suggest the Blues aren't going to get the prices that they're looking for. And then yesterday, what was it that McKenzie Weegar got? 3 second-round picks?
3 second-round picks.
And
well, it's not just
NHL
that.
defenseman
Yeah,
and
an NHL
prospect.
defenseman. And then you had at Chicago getting a first-round pick for Jason Dickinson and Colton Dock.
And Wall.
And then Wall got a first-round pick today.
Who's a third-line center that has Pew Suter offense.
And Connor Murphy got a second-round pick.
The Blues should be getting...
Yeah.
The Blues should finish this deadline with 4 first-round picks.
That or they should...
Last deadline was child's play compared to what they're going to have this time around.
That or they should have 6 second-round picks for all of this stuff. But they should be stockpiling players in the cupboard with prospects because of what people are trading away to get depth pieces.
If you trade Kyrou, you're getting a first-rounder.
Oh, yeah.
You'll get more than that, but you'll get a first-rounder.
You're getting a close-to-ready NHL player for Kyrou.
Robert Thomas is worth a first-rounder plus a lot more.
3 more.
Braden Shin, we think first-round pick.
And high A prospect.
Round, then yeah.
At this point, do you think Pew Suter is worthy of a first-round pick?
I think he's close to it. Now, Waz, if I'm not mistaken, was it 27 or 28? It was 2 years from now, first-round pick, or it was next year. It's not 2026 as first round.
It's top 10 protected.
And it's top 10 protected. So, first-round pick, but it's a couple of years from now. I think if Waugh gets that, Pew Suter is a better defensive center
27 first-round pick.
than Nicholas Waugh.
And not this upcoming draft, but the following year.
If Jason Dickinson and Colton Dock got a first-round pick, and I know some of that was because Edmonton needed Chicago to take Mangiapane's contract, Pew Suter, he absolutely gets a second-round pick, but there's a chance you get a first-round pick or the equivalent to a player, because I don't think they want picks. I think they want players.
What do you think Sonny is worth? Obviously not a first.
Yeah,
but
that one's probably more a third-round pick.
I think he's kind of like Bukestad, and he got, a 4th or 5th round pick.
And they got a prospect in return.
A pick we couldn't figure out which one we got.
Faulk's worthy of a first.
Faulk's worthy of a first and a prospect.
Parayko, if dealt, would be worthy of
multiple
a first.
first now that we know a 9th overall pick was going for him.
Fowler wouldn't be?
I don't think so. I think Fowler's probably a second at best.
Bennington?
I don't think so because it's a goalie.
Goalies are hard, man. Yeah. And I think if you're desperate enough, you get a first.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get it.
I think you could get a first for Jordan
So
Bennington.
we're talking about 6 or 7 guys on your team that are worthy of first-round picks. God bless it.
Why'd you do
Come on, man. No to avoid it.
I mean,
such a dad.
Somebody told me the other night that was old. I'm like, not for me. It's not.
It is.
6, 7.
It's old.
No, it's not, man.
What are they going to... Are they going to prioritize, do you think, picks in all of these deals?
No, I think it's prioritizing players. That's why I think you haven't seen any of these guys moved yet. I think they're prioritizing players. If you're the Blues, you don't need picks. I heard somebody in Buffalo say that, you gave up that first-round pick in the potential Colton Parayko deal, but they said it's going to be the back half of this year's draft. They said that guy's not going to be a part of your team for 3 to 4 years. Any picks you get, and if it's a second round, I think you're talking 5 or 6 years. You're not going for that. You're going for players that are in the AHL now, for guys like Faulk or Shen that need a chance at the NHL, but you don't know what it's going to look like what Fraser Minton was for Toronto, where they didn't know he was good. They just didn't know where it was going to go. He went to Boston. He's been awesome. But for Thomas and Kyrou and Parayko, those guys, the only way they're getting traded are for pieces that plan to be at the NHL next season and are viewed as high-end players at the NHL level.
I think they will use Thomas, Parayko as the guys that are getting the closer to NHL assets. I'm not as convinced on Kyrou. He might fall into that. And then I think you use the Kyrous, the Faulks, the Shens, if you end up moving them, to focus maybe more on picks as well. So you kind of create
Kyrou
2 waves. Kyrou is like a pick involved.
I think Kyrou's player. I think Kyrou's a guy that can be on the NHL roster next year.
We're talking about for the headliner, right?
Yeah.
The headline piece in a Kyrou deal, I would think has to be a pretty significant player or prospect.
Then let's put him in that category as well. I'm not as convinced of that, but I'm 50-50 on him. But if you're doing that for players as the primary asset, the primary target in those deals for those 3, I think the other ones you are focusing on the pick. It wouldn't shock me if they have 3 first-round picks in next year's draft, and some of those came in the Faulk and Shen deal, so they can kind of create 2 timelines again at once, which is what they've done in the past, where you've got the group that you're acquiring that's close to the NHL that kind of molds into with the Holloways, the Neighbors, the Mailloux, Brobergs, all those guys. And then you've also got kind of that second wave that starts to emerge a couple years behind them as well, if that made sense.
Alex, I just saw this on Twitter. Jay Fresh tweeted out, my prediction of Parayko for Pavel
Mintyukov.
Yeah,
10th overall pick for Anaheim. He was the one that earlier this season said he was frustrated with his usage in Anaheim and wanted out.
Him plus more coming back in return for the Blues is that much closer to coming to fruition.
I disagree. I think
is that the kind of return you think would be fair?
I guess yes, because this is a 10th overall pick, and you had a 9th overall pick.
Left-handed, 6'1", 200+ pound.
To me, I think Murtka had a much higher ceiling than what Mintyukov did, and you were going to get Murtka with a first-round pick. There would have to be a lot.
Let's assume there's a pick involved.
I think it's got to be a pick and another high-end prospect.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, like you traded away, or were going to trade away, a guy that was viewed as a top pair defenseman in the NHL who was just drafted. This kid was drafted 4 years ago and has been in the Anaheim Ducks NHL roster for the last 3 seasons.
So this Murtka guy, let's go back to the Colton Parayko conversation for a minute. This Murtka guy is 18 years old. He's in the WHL right now. He has 35 points this season.
And he played 8 or 9 games, I think, at the AHL before they said, like, hey, we're going to send you back. Because he was drafted over in the European League, not in juniors hockey, in terms of, like, because the rules are, like, Canadian and American-born, or maybe it's just Canadian-born players. Like, you have to be a certain age to play at the AHL, NHL. But because he was drafted as a European player, I think he was eligible to play. He played like 9 games, and then they sent him back to juniors.
Tell me, what kind of prospect are we talking about with him?
I mean, from what I read yesterday, and I was texting with Matthew Fairburn, who covered the Buffalo Sabres, he has top pair potential, and when he was drafted, he was viewed as the clear-cut second best defensive prospect in that draft. If not for Matthew Schaefer, he would have been the number 1 defenseman. And the Islanders obviously picked Schaefer. You have to wonder in terms of defensemen what teams needed at that time. He's big. He provides offense. He plays a two-way style. I heard you listening to the cut that I pulled yesterday from a prospect interview to where he said he emulates his game after Moritz Seider from the Detroit Red Wings. This was viewed as a guy that was going to be a top pair, top 4 defenseman. So that's how he was viewed when he was drafted. This Mintyukov was viewed that way. I don't remember what that draft was. Let me pull it up real quick. 2022 draft. So in terms of defensemen,
wasn't that the
Nemec, David Jiricek, Kevin Korchinski were all drafted prior to Mintyukov. I don't remember. I haven't looked anything into like what he was viewed in terms of the best defensive prospects in that draft, but that was also the year that Shane Wright, Logan Cooley, Cutter Gauthier, Marco Kasper all were drafted prior to him. And the difference, in my opinion, of Mintyukov versus Murtka, he's younger with a higher ceiling. Mintyukov has been at the NHL playing as a top 6 defenseman, and it has not been successful. So I think there's a tier difference in terms of this is a guy we think can replace Colton Parayko. If what Jay Fresh put out there of Mintyukov for Parayko, I don't know if they view Mintyukov is probably a 2nd or 3rd pair defenseman if you go that route.
So he's more in the, like, I'm not saying similar in terms of players, but role, more of a Justin Faulk than a Colton Parayko.
Correct.
That level of player.
That's what I would think. And I do think there's some gravity to, you look at it and you say, okay, well, this guy's been at the NHL for a few years. Like, you kind of know where he's at. Whereas you don't know what this Murtka is. He hasn't even tasted professional hockey yet.
Do the Kings or because these are the 2 teams that, according to reports, what we know publicly at least, Parayko would be open to are the Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. Are there players on those 2 rosters, whether NHL level or prospects, that you think would be Blues fans should be looking at right now as the most interesting options?
I mean, if I'm the Blues and I'm trading Parayko to the Kings, Brant Clark is who you're trading me back. 23-year-old right shot defenseman who's an RFA after this season. Other than that, if you look in their minor league system, LA doesn't have a whole lot. They traded their best piece, that Liam Greedtree, for Artemi Panarin. The Ducks have this Mintyukov, who's at the NHL level. I don't think they're trading anybody else off of their NHL roster. Maybe Owen Zellweger, who's a 22-year-old defenseman. I forget where he was drafted at. I think he was a first-round pick as well. No, he was a second-round pick, 5'10", 193. He's been fine for them.
Wee little lad.
Yeah, 19 points in 60 games. Or there was a kid that I remember us talking about in the draft, Stan Solberg, who was a first-round pick. I think that was the year that they drafted Dvorsky, if I'm not. Yeah, Dvorsky. He was drafted 20. Or no, this was the Juracek draft. This kid was drafted 23rd overall, and he's playing in the American Hockey League. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. So that would probably it. But, I mean, I don't think that's like a headliner enough as like Murtka was to get the deal done with just a first-round pick. I think you're talking multiple assets with those pieces if you're going to make that trade.
Take Leo Carlson.
Yeah, why not? I'll take Cutter Gauthier if they want to trade him.
They would never do this, but just go ahead and
live with you in fantasy world.
Do you think Robert Thomas plus Colton Parayko would be enough for Leo Carlson?
No.
Okay.
No. I think they would view that as, no, we have a better Robert Thomas and Leo Carlson.
Okay.
What about Thomas Parayko and Cairo for Leo Carlson?
No.
How many more of our trade pieces I got to throw in there?
It's not happening. You know, the old conversation we had where it's like, hey, what could you offer to Edmonton if Connor McDavid actually became available? I don't think there's really a price for, like, there are certain guys, we say everybody's tradable. Certain guys aren't.
Yeah. And not Leo Carlson.
Celebrini, he's not tradable. You just can't trade him. It doesn't matter what is offered your way. There is no price for that player. Did you see the clip of him the other day?
Yeah.
The shift that he had where it was like
absurd.
110% effort for the entire minute and 10 seconds that he was on the ice. It's insane what that guy does. But anyways.
The Devils would be the one I'm kind of wondering about. Their report out there, their insider is basically saying, like, look, all their defensemen, with the exception of Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce, are on the table. Simone Nemec is a guy who played with Dvorsky in Slovakia. You wonder if that could be one. They've had scouts at Blues games. The Blues had scouts at their games last night. That would be one that I'd be very curious about because they're looking for an upgrade on the offensive side, specifically a winger that can play with Jack Hughes.
Yeah, we've talked about them as a possible landing spot for Cairo for a while now.
Yep. And Boston's the other one that I would say keep an eye on for potentially making the move for one of those defensemen.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Believe it or not, coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Dish and T-bone.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
Free,
Flying away on a wing and a prayer.
Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
Change the lyrics on that.
9646. They want to go to Buffalo. They don't do that on radio.
Yeah, they just say he's a depth defenseman.
That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN.
Actually, I would say probably credit to BK and Ferrario for keeping Parayko in St. Louis, because Parayko probably loves this show, and he listened and he heard the Buffalo guys making fun of him. Be like, bleep those guys. I'm not going to a team that views me as a depth defenseman.
Let's start there. Believe it or not, Colton Parayko will be on the Blues opening night of next year.
I'm going to say believe it. I don't think a team ponies up what the Blues are asking. I don't think other teams have the equivalent of Murtka and a first-round pick to trade for Parayko unless it's a bigger deal. I think Parayko's a part of this team by next year.
I'm not going to believe it. I think he's going to get dealt. I don't know if it'll be done by Friday or not, but I think he'll be dealt in the offseason. Worst-case scenario, it's clear Army/Steen, if you want to throw Steen into this, are blowing this thing up. And I don't think you mentioned this earlier, I don't think we've gotten a leak of teams on the West Coast. If Parayko hasn't mentioned something to Army, and then Army's like, I'll get a deal done. I'll find us a suitor.
I'm not either. I think he's gone. I think he leaves. I think Thomas is probably gone. I wouldn't do it, but I think Thomas is probably gone. Kyrou's gone. Shin's gone.
Faulk's gone.
Fowler's gone. Faulk's gone. I think they're all gone.
I don't think Fowler's going anywhere. I think Fowler,
because of Fowler.
I think Fowler was happy to agree to come to St. Louis, and I don't think he's moving that trade clause at all. And this is full, isn't it?
Well,
I don't know how.
Well,
it works.
I mean, after this season,
Yes.
after this season, it's full. If it didn't carry over to what it was. All right, guys, believe it or not, both Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou are both playing in the Eastern Conference next year.
I say believe it, because I think both of them are from Toronto area, right? Closer to home. I think that's part of, this is me speculating here, but I think that's probably part of what's playing into the Parayko decision.
Yeah, he didn't
Going
want to go
closer
to
to
Buffalo.
the West
It's cold.
Coast is closer to his home than being, in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll
Alberta's-
say believe it. I think that both of them are more likely to go to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I'm going to say not believe it, because I still am going to hold out that maybe Thomas goes to Utah. And if that's the case, of course, they're not in the East. I can see Kyrou going East Coast. I'm not sure Thomas is gung-ho on saying I have to stay in the Eastern Conference. So I would say not believe it.
Yeah, I'm not believing this as well. I think if Robert Thomas goes, it's Utah. I think the Blues have pinpointed that's the team that we want to make the deal with if we can get that type of return back. And I'm going to say not believe. I think Kyrou could be an Eastern Conference team.
Guys, believe it or not, going into next season, the Blues will be closer to the NHL salary cap floor than they will the ceiling.
I forgot to look at that last night. Michael Jordan would tell you the floor is the ceiling.
True.
Cap projections. Where's the floor? It doesn't have the floor on here.
The ceiling's like 104, so I think the floor's like
$70.6 million.
So right now, next season, they have $89.3 million in cap space.
And how quickly you can start chopping that down by moving Parayko, Thomas,
Next year it's
Kyrou.
77. Next year it's $77 million.
The floor?
With the cap at 104. I'll say believe it. I think they're closer to the floor than the ceiling. I don't think they will be at the floor.
Yeah.
But there's a $30 million gap between the floor and the ceiling next season. I think they will be closer to the bottom portion of that than the top.
Yeah, the only guys they have to sign are Dylan Holloway, who's not going to be a crazy amount, Bergeron, who's not going to be a crazy amount, Kessel, who's not going to be a crazy amount. Yep.
Can I throw another one at you then? Since we're
Please.
talking about this, because I think this
Sorry,
will
man,
play
there's
into
one per
this.
person.
Believe it or not, the Blues will retain salary on one of Parayko or Thomas.
I'll say not because
say
it's
not.
so long. But if another team necessitates that, especially I think on Faulk or Parayko, you could do it. 6.5 is a lot easier to do that than the 8.5.
I don't think Parayko because of how many years. I think Faulk and Shen, you're eating money, and I think Bennington, you're eating money.
I think on Faulk and Shin, you should.
Yeah.
I agree.
Chris Johnston, by the way, reporting on Robert Thomas. The Mammoth are still at the periphery of perhaps making this trade. Now, I need Bradford here to decipher periphery. Actually, you know what? Will you say periphery, Invisalign, for me?
Periphery.
That nailed it, man.
I'm
to
figuring
go.
this out.
Yeah, you are.
Can I translate it for you? What it means? Blow it up. Blow it up.
Well, we already know that. We already know
Talking
that.
about it.
I mean, again, like, I don't want to see him go, but if you're telling me I can get back the pieces that potentially you get in return, hell yeah.
Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Flat out wouldn't do it. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. All right, let's get to these from the text line from the 636. Believe it or not, Dustin May will lead the Cardinals in wins this season. I'll say not. I'll go with Michael McGreevy.
I think they're all going to be kind of close within each other, so I'll just say Dustin May.
I'll say not. I'll take the field because I kind of agree. They're all going to be close. I'll take the field.
Wins don't matter.
Amen.
From Artificial Unintelligence, believe it or not, the Blues deadline will be a dud, and they end up drafting 12th overall.
I can't tell you the intrusive thoughts that I've been having of like all of this noise, and then tomorrow at 2:00 we're like, well, Blues didn't do anything.
And then we get excited because there's one big trade that's still on the back burner.
Yeah,
That's
it's
just got a
Vegas
process
because they put
nothing.
Mark Stone on IR today. I'm going to say not believe this. You're not going to fall as far as 12th. Even if you continue to win, which I don't think they're going to do. They beat up Seattle twice. Seattle is an awful team, and they played an incredible game against Minnesota. The worst, in my opinion, you can be in the draft is 6th. I don't think 7, 8, 9, 10 teams are going to push themselves closer to where you're at. And I don't think you go on that type of run.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe it, and it's two things. One, I don't think they're going to fall to 12th. I agree. I don't think they're going on that kind of a run. Two, I don't think this is going to be a dud. I think it's clear that Army's really looking to make significant moves, and I think he will make at least one of these that will really shock us.
I think the ones that we're not talking about, the Shen, Faulk, Bennington, Suter, potentially Kyrou, I think those, they already have an idea of what's going to happen. I think they're trying to get the difficult ones off the plate first.
Agreed.
And then go to the easy ones tomorrow.
Yeah, find out what you can get for these other guys. That could also help you inform you on what you want for Shin and Faulk.
Yeah.
Because if you get a first-round pick for Kyrou, first-round pick for Thomas, a first-round pick for Benner, whoever the other guys are, you probably are less incentivized to get those first-round picks for Shin. Maybe then you do go the prospect route for Shin, Faulk, etc. Because now you want guys that are a little closer.
Yeah, and I mean these are the guys, Parayko and Thomas, that are the ones, in my opinion, that have to have time to figure out if they want to move. All of these other ones don't have that same that leverage.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. Guys, believe it or not, Tanner will hit the breaking news sounder at least twice during the show tomorrow. I'll say believe it. I think you get a couple of deals tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we get some news.
Yeah,
I think we have news at some point.
I'll believe it. I would be shocked if we're not seeing at least 2 moves that happen. So, yeah. I got it up right now. I'm ready to click.
I know I kind of stole your thunder when Friedman dropped that one, but I saw it before you
I know
did.
you were getting duped, so to be fair.
Alex, I want to talk to you about this tweet by Ray Ferraro coming up on the other side.
Cool.
Ray Ferraro tweeted something about Colton Parayko, the no trade clause, and this has become a big conversation nationally about guys that have been dealt with the no trades in place before they have ultimately decided if they are going to waive that no trade clause or not. I want to get your thoughts on this and what Ray Ferraro had to say about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. The Blues took down the Seattle Kraken last night. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they take on the San Jose Sharks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Carver and Joey Vitale. And the big news for the St. Louis Blues today, Colton Parayko invoked his no-trade clause, blocking the trade to the Buffalo Sabres. The SportsCenter update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct.
Alex, I know you think Ray Ferraro is one of the best analysts out there. I agree with you on that.
Love Ray Ferraro.
He's awesome. He does the...
Not because he's one vowel away from my last name, but...
He does the ESPN broadcasts. Mm-hmm. He's on the Ray and Dregs podcast, which is ironic.
I love the fact that he's on that podcast.
Ray Ferraro tweeted out the following just a little bit ago. Parayko uses his negotiated no trade, and people kick up a fuss. The real issue, as I see it, is why the trade was public in the first place until signed off. Who leaked this? Not the player, not the agent, no benefit. It's cheesy of teams to backdoor pressure the player that they gave the no trade to, if that's where the info came from.
I love that. That's such a Canadian tweet, too. Kick up a fuss, cheesy.
Greg Wyshynski tweets the following in response to that. As I mentioned yesterday, there were no fewer than 4 trades that were reported before the player had waived for them. 2 of them, Myers to Detroit and Parayko to Buffalo, ultimately did not happen at all. Alex, how do you feel about this? It is an interesting spot. If you're a reporter, my belief, and I think we're on the same page here, you have to put that out there. Mm-hmm. It's your job to report the news as you see fit. And this is news. The idea that Parayko could potentially be dealt to Buffalo and the return that could come St. Louis's way, it's news. And so you report it. But it is on the teams, the players, etc., everybody who has that information to keep it internal to avoid that from taking place. So what were your thoughts over the last few days as we've seen this happen? It's becoming more and more of an issue as more of the league has these no trade clauses.
Yeah, I have no disrespect for any of these reporters, insiders that put this information out on social media. One, it's the world we live in, and 2, it's how these guys stay employed. Darren Dreger is one of the best. So is Elliot Friedman. These guys have built relationships over the last 20-plus years with scouts and agents and general managers to where if they are gifted this information, they put it out there because that's why they're the insiders. It's why they get paid money and are employed. I think the real cheesy, if you want to take Ray Ferraro's word for it, is it's from the team's perspective. Like, he's right. There's no upside for Parayko's agent to leak this. Yep. There's no side for Mertka's agent to release this, nor is it any of the agents or the scouts to do this. This comes down to both general managers or their front office inner circles. Somebody is leaking it. Armstrong's side doesn't leak information of trades potentially going down.
It's
and
rare.
It doesn't benefit them.
Yeah, and
that's the thing.
Doesn't benefit them.
It's rare. I do wonder. I don't know this to be true, but like somebody on the text line brought up the Torrey Krug situation. The Blues were incentivized to pressure him to go.
Now that one they may have.
Yeah. So in that scenario, and maybe it would have made sense for them to be the ones that would leak that information. I don't know if they did or didn't. It did get out.
Here is what I have been told. Doug Armstrong has meetings with his team prior to the deadline that warns them if something gets out, we will find out. And that's not good for people involved with that. So, like, when you see people saying sources, that's not coming from Doug Armstrong's side.
It's very hard to get information from the Blues.
And that's a tight-knit group where that inner circle has been with Doug for a very long time. Doug operates a certain way. So when I saw the stuff come down, to me, there's one side that had leverage on this to why you would leak it. It's Buffalo. It's Jarmo Kekalainen and his staff. Why? Because they need an answer to find out, can we get this done? If not, we're going to move on elsewhere. Because this goes on behind closed doors. Parayko could take his sweet-ass time up until Friday at 2 o'clock, and then they are left standing without a chair.
Well, and if you do it behind closed doors, there's no pressure on Parayko.
But it's probably more likely that it gets done.
That's why it gets leaked, potentially, is because the Sabres probably look at this going, okay, Parayko, does he want to come to Buffalo? We're not sure. Let's be honest. A lot of people in the NHL don't want to come to Buffalo. we're going to leak this trade. And what happens is you start to see, like we saw in the first segment today, where part of the fan base goes, wow, look at that return we could get for Parayko. And you hope that it puts some pressure on him.
But that's dumb if you're Buffalo, because now you're putting pressure on a guy that probably is going to make that decision
smart
difficult.
On the Sabres. I probably would leak it too, if I'm being honest.
I agree, and the reason being, you've got to be able to pivot. If he decides he doesn't want to come, which is absolutely in play, as we've seen, you then need time to make the next move. Because if they do want to upgrade their team, they don't have a ton of assets to go do that at this year's deadline. You're limited in what you can maneuver, both in terms of a cap situation and also whatever you have available to give to other teams. So Parayko says no, especially if they really do want that right-handed defenseman. If that's something they're targeting, and it sounds like they are, whether we agree with that or not, doesn't matter. They seem to. Well, then I need to be able to go get somebody else. And the only way you can do that is if there's a decision in place, because you're right, Alex, if this had not been reported, Parayko could have taken his sweet time because nobody would know. He was not going to play last night no matter what. He had the back spasm issue. There's no other game for the Blues prior to the trade deadline. There's nothing else that would incentivize him to make this decision quicker other than public pressure. It's the one way that you can make it clear a decision needs to be made sooner rather than later. And the moment that it gets reported publicly, it's a tick, 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 where hey, on NHL Network, all of them are talking about it. On TSN, they're all talking about it. You are the talk of the NHL because you're the big deal that could potentially go down. My guess, and it's purely a guess, Buffalo wanted to incentivize a decision sooner rather than later, and that's potentially why you saw this gap.
It's smart on their end on one angle, but you're also gambling on it, because if you really want Colton Parayko, you're putting a lot more pressure on him. That's going to make that decision probably lean more towards, no, I'm not doing it, rather than if this is behind closed doors and he takes his time to gradually think about it. Now, I know you're on a timeline, but you're risking the chance of him agreeing to being traded.
And that's possible. I could also make the argument as well that there's a chance that they were able to leak this so quickly on the principles of being done that it led to the blindsiding of Colton Parayko, that then maybe he turns on the Blues potentially, right? He didn't, of course, but like that could be the other thought process of this too, because there was a decent chance Parayko, maybe we've seen this before with players. They find out they get traded on social media before they find out from their GM, right? And why is that? It's part of that campaign as well to put pressure on the opposing side of, hey, you got blindsided by your own GM because this trade got leaked. Blues wouldn't do that because the Blues wouldn't want Parayko to find out through social media. You know who would? Buffalo, because then maybe Parayko's a little bit sour, or any other player would be sour at their GM for not telling them that they were going to be on the block.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. I do find it to be difficult for everybody involved.
Yeah,
because
I just hate it for Parayko.
I don't know how you avoid this. Like, this is just going to be a reality in the NHL because, man, look at the Blues roster. Half of it has a no-trade clause. Now, go look at a team like Toronto, for example. They got a boatload of no-trade clauses, man. I'm going up and down their list right now. Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares, Max Domi, Dakota Joshua, Calle Yarncrook. On the defensive side of things, Morgan Riley, Jake McCabe, Chris Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Brandon Carlo, and Anthony Stolarz. That's 13 players on their roster, man. More than half of them have some level of no trade protection, with many of them being full no move clauses. There's no way to avoid this anymore. Now that the league has gone to this, where more and more guys are getting the no trade protection, we're going to get to the deadline. There's going to be a lot of people involved in these negotiations where we know deadlines make deals. GMs wait till the last minute to officially make these decisions. And there's going to be public pressure from this reporting that tries to incentivize players to make a decision one way or the other as quickly as possible.
And the players know that this is part of it. And I mean, like, as much as Parayko was probably blindsided, I mean, he's a professional about it. And I would imagine it's, water off a duck's back at this point. But I know people don't care about this. They were already complaining about it in the open, saying, who cares? He's making $80 million. There's a human element to it. And it sucks for those guys to think about the scenario that you're in, and then all of a sudden be blindsided by it and have to make an emotional decision very quickly, and then worry about a team that you have given everything to that potentially turns your back on you.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. It's 1:42. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up next, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind, put a recap into everything that we've discussed today, and try to lay out what we think will happen over the next 24 hours for the St. Louis Blues. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check out the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. So sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app is super easy to use. It's free to download, and it is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You can replay the entirety of this show on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We will have a new edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast tomorrow.
Right after the draft.
Alex, JR, and Donnie decided, hey, it makes more sense to go ahead and do this after the trade deadline. So we will do that then. So you'll see that tomorrow afternoon over on the YouTube page. Today, though, because I know this is what everybody is craving right now, we will have a new edition of the Redbird Report.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll talk Dustin May.
We'll talk velo.
We'll talk Nolan Gorman.
What?
We'll talk Ollie Marmol.
Oh, my God.
And Quinn Matthews, who's looked really good today as well.
Don't have enough time in the day.
I know. It's a lot.
I'm going to have to...
But if you want your Cardinals content, you sure as hell didn't get it today here on the show, so we'll give it to you.
I'm going to plot out some time to do this, guys.
This afternoon over on the Redbird Report. All right, Alex, we will finish, though, by talking about the Blues for the 13th segment today. The Colton Parayko situation. Your final thoughts on it as it stands today with him declining the trade to Buffalo, and then we can talk about what that means for his future. But your thoughts on the whole, what the last 24 hours were.
I mean, it's been wild, and I think it's going to get wilder, specifically on the Parayko front. Look, when I saw the return, as much as I love Colton Parayko, I think it would have made sense if the Blues were able to pull this trade off, because Mertka, to have a Colton Parayko who is 32 years old at $6.5 million, still a part of this roster moving forward.
Indicates to me they are truly trying to turn this thing over.
They're trying to shake up the core.
That was the one guy I didn't think that Army would trade. Just didn't think he would do it. I thought he would leave that for Alexander Steen to decide, because at every turn, Doug Armstrong has pounded the table for Colton Parayko. He helped to draft him. He is a guy that believed in his talent when he got to the Blues, and then allowed Alex Pietrangelo to walk, in part because they had Colton Parayko. How do I know that? Because he specifically said, we still have an alpha on the blue line. It's Colton Parayko. So at every turn, that's been his biggest supporter for Colton Parayko, is Doug Armstrong. And then the idea that he would go basically unknowing into this deadline that he's going to potentially be dealt and then get dealt. I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. I know it maybe shouldn't have for some. It maybe didn't, because he's 32 years old and the team's going in a new direction. I wasn't sure if he would be here on opening night of next year. I sure as hell did not think they were going to make that move at the deadline. So it surprised the hell out of me. Now, what does it mean? Well, we saw the report just a little while ago, Alex, that he's still open to being moved. Parayko just doesn't want to play in Buffalo. He's not the first player to feel that way. Do you think we'll get more news on Parayko as a potential trade candidate prior to tomorrow's deadline of a little more than 24 hours from now?
Yeah, I think you're going to hear a lot of that moving forward between now and Friday, because I think now teams that didn't believe Colton Parayko was available found out yesterday that Colton Parayko will be traded or could be traded. And so now what you have is you have everybody coming out of the cupboard calling the Blues saying, hey, we want Parayko. But I don't think he gets moved. I don't think, with the Kings and the Ducks being the rumor of teams that are interested, they don't have the equivalent of what Radim Mertka and a first-round pick are. Like, I know Mintyukov is the guy that's being comped. I just pulled up a few different analysis from Wheeler and Pronman over on The Athletic when he was drafted. This guy was projected to be a 15th or 16th overall pick. He was selected higher than what they thought. I don't think the Blues are going to take a chance on that. Mertka was a guy that, if not for Matthew Schaefer, probably would have been selected in the top 5. And he wasn't. He was selected 9th overall. That's a different hierarchy in terms of trade equity that you're getting back for Colton Parayko. So I think everyone's interested. I don't think anybody's meeting the matching price of Colton Parayko. The offseason will be a fascinating position to be in, because that's where I think teams start to talk about, okay, let's say Buffalo comes back to the table because they know they got to move on from a left-handed defenseman. Now you start to get to a little bit more intrigue, and then Parayko has more time to think about it.
Yeah, I don't think the noise is going anywhere on Parayko. I think it's only going to get louder from here. I don't think you saw teams get put out there and reports coming out that Parayko is open-minded, unless there's potentially something that can get done. I don't know if he gets traded by Friday, but I am not expecting him to be a Blue by the time we get to opening night next season. I just don't see it. I think Army is trying hard to tear this thing apart. I think he's trying to move on from everybody that he can that's not under the age of 25 and make stuff happen and get some prospects and picks in return so Steen can start fresh and start the rebuild or retool or whatever they're going to call it.
That's where I'm at as well. I don't think he's going to be here next year, but I just wonder if they're going to be able to find the right deal between now and tomorrow when they have so much other stuff that they have to do, because that's complicated. Finding the deal for Parayko is not easy, and getting the right return for that, it's going to take a lot of legwork. And then you have to also make sure Parayko's good to go with whatever that team is.
The good news on that part is all the conversations have already started, so I would imagine now he's not going to be blindsided as much.
But you also have to think about, hey, are we going to do something with Kyrou, with Thomas, with Shin, with Suter? What are we thinking on our blue line with Justin Faulk? What's the plan there? Hey, is anybody interested in Cam Fowler? Is that a move that we could potentially make? A lot of this stuff, what about Benner? There are just so many different moving pieces at this year's deadline. I do wonder if maybe today they focus more, still today, on Colton Parayko, Thomas, Kyrou. Maybe throw Benner into that mix. If you don't get anything that absolutely blows you away, you say, all right, we're putting this on the back burner. It's time to turn our attention tonight to the guys that we all expected to see moved. Shin, Faulk, those kinds of things, where you could potentially get Suter, the smaller moves than the big blockbuster that had previously been.
This is pure speculation by me. I think the Blues know where Shen and Faulk can get moved. They have a 15-team no-trade list. My speculation, Jordan Kyrou has already had the conversation of, look, if a trade happens, I'd be willing to move depending on where the place is. The two guys that I don't know that to be sure is Thomas and obviously Parayko. And I think there's a deadline. I think they know, hey, we got teams interested in these guys. We'll call you back when we get our other duties done. I think today is all about seeing what happens with Parayko and Thomas, circling back with teams that have had conversations. And once they have their final answers, then, like I would imagine later on tonight, we're going to find out, cool, the deal's dead with Thomas and Utah, or Boston is out of it for Thomas. They'll readdress it in the offseason. Then I think you get to the point to where tomorrow morning you wake up, you roll out of bed, you see your phone, and you say, all right, let's get to work for these other guys that we don't expect to be here post 2 o'clock.
All right, let's get into the other news from today. We do have this from the NFL. The Bears have traded DJ Moore to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are sending a second-round pick to the Bears in this deal. Pretty significant draft assets changing hands there. Might not be the only big move that happens today. Trey Wingo reporting things are moving fast in the Max Crosby sweepstakes. Last night, Dallas thought they were close to a deal, but since then, another team has raised the ante and potentially are offering the Raiders multiple first-round picks. Expects Dallas to shift their focus to Trey Hendrickson in free agency. So that's the latest on the NFL front. Either of those, wet your whistle, Alex?
I mean, DJ Moore, I think it's pricey. I know you needed a wide receiver. I would have gone to the market and paid a wide receiver, Mike Evans specifically. The Max Crosby one I find fascinating because there's so many teams that would need to get that guy to change the dynamic of their roster. And if Dallas is out, I mean, we've been seeing them moving money around. Makes sense that they'd be shifting it to, cool, we'll go to free agency and pay Trey Hendrickson. So Max Crosby is the one I'm fascinated to see, and I wonder if a team like Detroit is involved with this, or New England we've talked about going in on something like this. I really am fascinated to see who goes after Max Crosby and pays the price.
Two names that I would keep an eye on in Max Crosby. Bears just got that second-round pick, which you just mentioned, that DJ Moore. Now, he mentioned 2 firsts was the talking point, but I wonder if they try and pair a first and then a second here. The other team that I would keep an eye on, I think now that they made their big splash already, I don't know that they can make this work cap-wise, would be the Rams. Anytime you mention 2 first-round picks are being floated out there.
Do they have 2 first-round picks?
They've got their first this year. They could trade next year's. It wouldn't shock me at all.
Didn't they just trade their first this year?
They
got the pick from the Falcons. Remember, they've got the Falcons overall
pick. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all to see them go all in and go out and acquire Max Crosby and figure out how they're going to do it under the cap.
That would be really interesting.
What a team. If you do that, man, more power to you. Go all out right now and try and win for one more year and figure it out on the other side.
I wonder about the Commanders. That's a team that has a ton of cap space right now. The Bengals have a ton of cap space right now, but they don't typically make big moves like that and pay those players. The Patriots, they've got some money to be able to spend this offseason, and they've got a late first-round pick this year. Maybe they say, hey, let's go all in right now while we've got this superstar-level quarterback. Those are a few teams that, just based upon their cap space that they have available, could be interesting. The Bears do not have a whole lot of cap space, by the way. They've got some moves that they're going to need to make if they're going to be able to make this work. We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow, but we're going to spend the vast majority of our time on the St. Louis Blues. We are now a little more than 24 hours. 24 hours and 2 minutes away from the NHL trade deadline. We will keep you apprised with anything that we hear over there. We have a new Redbird report posting later on this afternoon. Last Minute Blues podcast will be available for you tomorrow. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.